This week we watched The Dark Path of Friendship.
Or Tomoki's Lonely Battle, Asuramon's Trap.
And Zoe's Unbelievable Adventure.
Or Ranamon's Tenacity, a female Digimon personal combat.
You said that, without mispronouncing every word. I'm very impressed. So, there wasn't any DigiNews this week, or any that that particularly stood out to me, so we won't do any DigiNews. But for Lost in NewsLatelymon, we did a special episode focusing on Atmon episode 26, and it was only special because we didn't have Jay on, we had one of my friends on, and it was to test out if this recap episode actually worked as a recap episode, and if you could bring someone who had never watched Atmon in before, and would they understand anything. So if you're interested in that, listen to Appley episode 26, and I'll link it in the link dump. We also are doing an Easter stream of Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth, and it's Easter themed because we have Easter themed Digimon in the party. I started it today, but in the last bit of the stream, the video quality went quite bad because I was doing it at my place, so now I'll try again possibly tomorrow, so Saturday, and I'll post about it on social media, so hopefully it's better because now I'm at Jay's place. And just a heads up, if the audio quality is different for this episode than previous episodes, because we're recording at Jay's places, and this room's kind of a bit echoey, so hopefully it's not too bad. Also, if you hear any barking dogs, it's because Jay has 2 dogs and I have my dog here, but my dog's currently asleep on his bed, so yeah. We got some fan art from Smile Wolfie, and he drew us something for the fanfic, and he drew Maisie falling in love with Vamdemon. And it was a reference to what Jay said about Maisie should fall in love with Vamdemon, and it was very cute, and I'll link that and linked up as well. For the weekly poll this week, which I'm actually going to say during the episode instead of not during the episode, which I did last week, it will be Ranamon or Fairymon, who is the fairest?
The one with fair in the name, obviously.
No, shut up. So yeah, that'll be the question, because I think that's quite a difficult question, because I like both of their designs. I kind of think Ranamon's quite cute.
Isn't Shutamon the one that's in contention, though? Because that's the one the mirror talks about.
No, she was the most beautiful.
That's what the fairest is.
No, but he said the fairest was Fairymon, but the most beautiful is... the strongest is Shutamon. The strongest and the beautifulest is Shutamon. Was that
English only?
No, both. Oh, it was at least in the original. So, but we'll talk about what happened in the episode when we get to it. So yeah, that's all there is for Lost in NewsLatelymon for this time. There's not that much. We're going to start Lane soon, and yeah, that's a thing. We're also just briefly going to brush on the survey that we just did. And so, from what it looks like, and it's the last day that you can do it, so I'm going to close it tomorrow when I'm editing this podcast. And so it looks like the fanfic will continue from when, straight after the events of Chapter 9. So I will still be 14 in the story. Jay will make an appearance.
Woo!
Because I know that was just going to be if May is at the current age, but it had such a high yes percentage. I think I'll just make him have an appearance anyway.
Will I also be 14?
No.
What?
I have an idea, don't worry.
Okay.
And a lot of people wanted that. It will be written in a legitimate writing style.
So, not intentionally bad?
Yes. It'll be unintentionally bad.
Plenty of capacity for that.
Yeah, thank you. And so I'm doing this at the top of my head, but I've been looking at it quite frequently, so I know the results. And then we'll be reading it at the end of the outro, because a lot of people just said yes regardless of writing style. And as for Lane, we will be covering that this weekend. We'll start with the first episode. And in each episode that we record, we will do a quick 10 to 20 minute recap of what we know about Lane before we cover that week's episode, just to catch everyone up and just so we understand it better, because I understand that it is quite a hard anime to grasp from a lot of people who have watched it multiple times and have said that. And as for the language we'll be covering it in, I believe last time I checked, though I'll check again before we start covering it, Japanese was winning by quite a few votes. So we'll be most likely covering Lane in Japanese, but if that has changed, we will obviously cover it in English.
Did my vote count for more than one vote?
What did you want?
English? It'd be easier to follow.
Well, I mean, I'll look at the votes tomorrow and we'll decide on it then. But
Okay, so right now we're pretending democracy is a real thing, right?
No,
But we're just pretending for now.
no, I'm going.
okay.
I know. I'm legitimately. I'm going to look at the results and
Yeah, and then we'll pretend they mean something, and then we'll go for English.
because I know I checked and they're winning. Japanese is winning by quite a few votes. I don't mind.
Not after I get through with it.
I understand that it's easier for us to understand if it's in English, and I know that Juri's voice actress is in it instead of just Alice's in the original. But yeah,
Are we sure this isn't a Jason Todd situation?
is he Robin?
He was. So to give you an understanding, basically Jason Todd was Robin for a while, and he was the one that died because the Joker killed him. And the reason that happened is they had like a phone call-in thing where people would vote, yes, they want him to die in some manner, or they didn't want him to die. And votes came out, and it was, they wanted him to die, so it happened. They found out later, because it was back in the day, it was just, call in and whatever. That one guy had called like 1,000 times, and that pushed it, so he died.
Woof. Well, I'm pretty sure for the poll on Poll Daddy, I selected to limit people's responses, so someone from the same IP could only vote once.
Fair enough.
So I'm pretty sure I restricted that. Also in the same session, I think as well, I enabled that. I don't know. So yeah, we'll be hopefully covering Lane this weekend because it's a long weekend, so we have more time to cover it. We'll be doing a Cyber Sleuth stream. Jay may or may not be present for it, depending on how Jay feels.
Yeah, I'll probably be asleep, which, given where the camera will be, means I'll be in it.
Good point. Hopefully the internet's okay for that here. And also we're doing New Game Plus, which I had to swap out my team of level 99 Digimon because you know how they have scripted, at the start of the game you played it, there's a scripted loss.
Yes.
Yeah. So New Game Plus, you have 3 level 99s.
Okay.
And so because you're so much faster, you get about 20 turns before the big tentacle monster makes a turn. The first turn, it, converges power, so it, charges up everything. Yeah. I think it does that for the second turn as well. So what's meant to happen is, you get, you attack, twice, and then it attacks you.
Yeah.
So I attacked, multiple times with my very strong Digimon.
Yeah.
And then it attacked, and it's meant to, but you have one Digimon at a time. Mm-hmm. And it one-hit shots your Digimon. When you have a level 99 Digimon, with full stats and fully evolved, it does probably about 100 health, I think. And then the battle stops. And the character says, okay, we have to run away now.
Oh, at least it was like that and it didn't force you to sit there for an hour.
I was legitimately worried that it would make me wait until all my Digimon had passed out, right? And I was so worried that would be the case. Because it was just going so long. I'm like, I'm just going to have to stop this recording and just let this play on auto for 5 hours. I was so worried. But I was still doing 0 damage to it because it was a scripted loss. And, it was just so annoying. I feel like they could have done that better.
I can't wait to play Persona New Game Plus.
Yeah. You haven't even finished Persona 5 yet.
I love Persona New Game Plus. I get to keep all my stats high, get to keep all my Personas big, which means all the combat's a waste of time, but you can get through it really quickly.
Yeah. And I guess that's what it's meant to be, but I immediately swapped them out for Easter-like themed ones, and I switched the difficulty to hard. So hopefully I'm going to have a bit more fun with that than what I had this morning. So that was basically the setup anyway for it. So on to Obnoxious Synopsis. The first episode that we're watching this week is called The Dark Heart of Friendship, or Tomoki's Lonely Battle, Asurumon's Trap. What do you think will happen in this episode?
So Tomoki got dragged through one of the eyes. Mm-hmm. So what he's going to do is they're all trying to use their bad personality traits against them, or their insecurities, I think, which is an interesting way of showing us their character, but it's not interesting so much when it's episode 24 or whatever it is.
Yep.
So I don't know, let's see. He gets dragged along the dark heart of friendship. I don't know, they're saying they're not really his friends. They're just looking after him because he's a kid, and we're going to get flashbacks to I never had friends when I was back in the thing. Everyone bullied me, and my parents weren't very supportive, and but our big brother Takuya, he looked after me, and I get it, and I'll defeat my shadow with that power and whatever. A shadow Chuckman would be cute, though, is all I'm saying. So
do you think this is going to be the Persona arc? The Persona 4 arc?
Yeah, because I when you say Asurumon's Trap, right? I've never heard of Asurumon before, so I'm guessing, similar to the last episode, he's just going to die in the middle.
So you think it's the same sort of formula as...
Oh, boy, do I.
He shows up, Digimon's there, the Digimon says, hey, you're actually a terrible person, here's why, and Chuckmon goes, I will defeat you, defeats him, and then Chuckmon has a personal battle?
Yeah, and it's just that, and the only difference is I don't think that all of the kids will burst in at the end to help, because they're all busy.
Right. Because they're all separated now. Do you think anything will annoy you in this episode?
If it's the same formula as the last episode?
That makes sense.
So lazy.
Do you think it'll be a good episode?
No.
What rating?
5.
5 seems to be your staple
It
rating.
is!
Filler or not filler?
Okay, so we're going to learn something about Tomoki, but at the end of the day, it will... he's already done his big maturing, so it is filler, really.
Right, so is that a yes for filler?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to predict about that episode?
No.
The second episode they're watching this week is called Zoe's Unbelievable Adventure.
You almost just called her Zoe.
Yeah, because it's written like Zoe, but it said Zoe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or Ranamon's Tenacity, Female Digimon Personal Combat. What do you think will happen this episode?
I would almost... Based on the second one alone, I would think that she... Wait, no. I was going to say she fights Ranamon, but that would be weird because of the shadow thing. No, Ranamon's in the title. Okay. So, Ranamon's going to come in and be like, you're not as pretty as me. Your hair's a... Oh, I can't swear.
The state of it. Oh, the state of your hair, man. The state of your hair. Oh, the state of it. Oh.
Your hair's a skank. Your makeup's just not on fleek.
Is this the women's title?
Yes.
Well, I guess the Divas title.
The Divas title from 2013. That's what this is. Also, there are bees involved.
Because the bee pun.
Yeah.
Unless you think I just misspelt it.
Well, you wouldn't have pronounced it that way if you misspelled it.
Good point. You put a lot of trust in me. Do you think anything will annoy you in this episode?
Yes.
What do you think will annoy you? Care to elaborate?
No, I'm beginning to get really sick of trying to pare down what it is will annoy me. When at the end of the day, it always is just the whole episode. Why are you even asking me?
Do you think it'll be a good episode?
No.
What rating?
4.
Wow!
It's Frontier! What do you want from me?
So you're saying the Tommy episode will be better than the Izumi episode?
Of course it will! What, Izumi's going to be yelling at Ranamon about which one of them is prettier and you think the Tommy one's not going to be better?
Well, at the start of the series you said you'd hate Tommy.
Yeah, and you know what? He's okay.
He's my favourite.
Because he had character development, which I'm surprised he managed.
Filler or not filler?
I don't think Ranamon's getting beaten, so it's filler.
Okay.
Much in the same way as when they fought Petal'dramon, the episode before he was beaten forever.
Yeah, and he was beaten by Duskmon.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to predict about this episode or
I
the
just
other one?
want to leave.
You just want to leave? Well, I guess after this episode, we'll be halfway through Frontier.
Halfway through death.
And then we get to watch X Evolution.
I don't know about...
Alright, onto the show. So, just a heads up, I had to grab the subtitles that we deemed pretty mediocre for this episode because the good subs that I had, they didn't have the subtitles for the MKV version, which is what I had. And I couldn't get the AVI to download, so I had slightly worse subtitles, so hopefully my translations aren't too bad. And I'm sorry if they are. So I just thought I'd give everyone a heads up, just so I'm completely honest with everyone. Also, I guess if Jay and I have an argument about what was said in this episode in the original, like, Jay was able to get he had the AVI version, so if we have an argument, Jay's probably right about what happened in the original version.
Not like I ever remember what's actually said in any of the episodes.
Yeah, it's not like you have it on 2 times speed or anything.
That's irrelevant. It's Digimon. I don't remember what happens in it.
Even though you make notes.
Yeah, I'm not going to write down everything that's ever said like you do. That's a weird thing to do.
I really want to make this the good.
It's not about that. You can have a good conversation without writing it down line for line.
Okay.
Speaking of line for line, did you notice in the recap that they refer to... Okay, so they go, Junpei was separated from Takuya and the rest.
They always do that.
Why is it referred to like that? It's the team.
Okay, there's a legitimate reason why, because this is a translation for, like, it's like if you're making something a plural, you add tachi to it. So it might be ore tachi or boku tachi. Like, for example, they might say Appmon tachi in the manga, and that basically means the Appmon, like, as a collection, like the Appmon with us. So it might be, Appmon and the others. So I think the translation is probably more like Takuya Tachi, meaning Takuya and everyone. So that's probably why they use that translation. I'm not quite sure because I haven't actually listened to the exact use. For the most part, I don't actually listen to the Japanese when I'm watching an anime with subtitles. And that's very bad, but if I close my eyes and I don't focus on the subtitles, I can actually try to pick out some Japanese. So that's the problem, is that I'm not actually learning Japanese from watching anime because I'm not actually listening to the Japanese. But I'm pretty sure that might be the case.
Wouldn't it actually mean all the Takuyas?
No. It's like, yeah, Bokutachi is like us as a collection, like we. It's like we, like as a group. Like, watashi tachi is like we. Ore tachi, we. It's like, we. Okay. Yes. Hi. So the episode starts off with Tomoki, his mum, and his dad watching TV, and they see a toy commercial. And I'm pretty sure in the dub, it seems to be like a Power Ranger toy commercial, but I'm not by what they're saying. And you don't actually get to see what's on the screen. So I could, it just sounds like they're making it a Power Rangers commercial because they're probably on the same network, I think. So Tomoki asks for it, and his dad asks if he still wants more toys. In the dub, the dad says, let's buy 3. In the original, his mum then says in reply to the dad, saying, of course he wants more toys. In the dub, she says, for your second bedroom. And then Tomoki asks his dad to buy it. And in the dub, Tommy says, wow, you people are really the greatest, but I really only need 1. His brother's on the phone and he tells Tomoki to shut up. In the dub, he asks if Tommy's dense and says that his parents were just teasing him. And this is where I noticed, in the dub, the brother is voiced by Taichi. So it's really weird because this is just Taichi yelling at Koromon. And then, his new brother is Matt. So it's like, AU where Taichi and Koromon have a falling out, so Koromon just starts to follow Matt around.
It's a bit of a stretch.
It's the same voices. And also Calumon, I guess. But Calumon and Taichi never met, unfortunately. It'd be cute if it did, though. His mum tells the brother off and says that he shouldn't speak to Tomoki this way, because he's still small. In the dub, it's kind of fairly similar, but she says, don't use that tone with your brother, as he's just a baby and you'll hurt his feelings. So I feel like this is more like almost demeaning to Tommy, because it's not just saying, he's still small, he's saying he's a baby and you'll hurt his feelings. I don't know, it just seems more harsh for Tommy being there, and I guess that explains why Tommy looks saddened by this. But I just found wow, that's a pretty harsh thing to say. Tommy's dad agrees and tells him to use the other phone. In the dub, he says for him to plot his romantic conquest from the stairs upstairs, the phone upstairs. And so it's straight up said, he's talking to a female that he likes. Maybe his girlfriend, maybe just a girl he's interested in.
It's Sora.
Yeah, maybe it's Sora. Maybe he's saying sorry for giving you a hairpin you didn't like and also vomiting in your hat apparently. But in the original, he's just talking to his friend. It's not said what their gender is. The brother says that Tomoki doesn't have any friends because he's selfish. In the dub, he says that he'd be happier if he didn't always get his way, and that he must drive his friends crazy, if you even have any. Then he asks Tommy if he even has friends, and if he does, why is he sitting on the couch with mum and dad? In the original, the brother says that he's exaggerating, but he has a habit of doing nothing by himself. In the dub, he just says to his parents, instead of talking to Tommy, about how they're not doing him any favours, because they're just giving him everything that he wants, and the world doesn't work like that. Tomoki says that he's alone every day. In the dub, Tommy says he doesn't need anybody to take care of him, which, he clearly does. The brother walks off, and Tomoki is continuing to talk to him, and then asks, hey, you even listening? And the brother just ignores him. So Tomoki says that he hates him. And this is the same in both versions, and it's kind of biting, but we don't actually see how the brother reacts to this. I would have liked a bit of a shot of the brother looking sad, because really, I remember watching this episode as a kid. Well, when I was 13 or 14, I can't remember how old I was when I watched this. And I was like, man, that brother's a horrible person. Yeah. Watch this now. He's completely reasonable.
It's actually a really significant difference between the English and the Japanese. In the Japanese, I'd say that Tommy seems like he is spoiled, and yeah, they're agreeable to it as parents, but he's really exploiting it as a child, and the brother, while he's pretty mean, and I'd say unnecessarily so, he recognizes that. Similar to the English, but I think he takes it really badly and responds in a very negative way that I think is meant to position you as the audience to say, why is he being so awful? But in English, it is immediately evident that the parents are psychopaths who are doting on Tommy to such an extent that even he has to say, hey, please tone down how much you want to give me. But then, obviously, he thinks he deserves it, and that means the brother is very reasonable if, he reacts like a teenager sometimes.
See, I actually have, similar thoughts, but slightly different in the way that, in the original, I think Tomoki is definitely more spoiled because the parents sort of are more reasonable and they sort of say, oh, do you really need this toy? Do you need this one? And he just starts saying, oh, please buy it for me, please, please, please. And in the dub, he's, more reasonable, saying, I only want one. And then the brother, while he seems a bit more reasonable in the dub, I feel like it's not as realistic because he's acting so much more mature. I feel like he's meant to be a teenager, but I feel like he's a fairly young teenager. I think he would probably only be 14, maybe 15 at most. And I feel like he is showing wisdom beyond his years instead of just being a normal, 14-year-old saying, you're a terrible, spoiled little child. He actually explains why he thinks that in the dub, and I don't feel like that's particularly realistic.
Well, he's mature enough that they're saying he has a girlfriend. Maybe that maturity is what attracted her.
I guess in the dub they always have a habit of aging up the characters, right?
To an extent. Was he 14 before, though?
Well, the age is never specifically said, but I always got the impression that he was definitely a teenager, but I wouldn't say that much older. I think maybe older than Takuya, maybe even older than Junpei, but I don't feel like he's that much older than the main characters.
Well, if we put him in a teenager, he's 13 or he's 14, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be much older than that, given the show.
But the thing that annoys me is that he's saying, oh, I need to use this phone, when all the 10-year-olds in the show have mobile phones. Why doesn't he have a mobile phone?
Do they?
Well, Takuya has a mobile phone, and Kouji has a mobile phone that we see in the first episode. And that's what becomes the D-arcs. The detectors. So presumably Tommy also has a mobile phone. Why doesn't the teenager have a mobile phone?
My response to you is very simple. Mobile phones in 2003 cost a lot of money to operate. Home phones cost a lot less. When you're at home, you use the home phone.
Well, clearly they all had mobile phones anyway, so may as well use them.
That's not the point. The point is that the operating a mobile phone back then was really expensive. You might forget that now because when the first time you got a real phone was 2012.
Well, I had the state-of-the-art phone in 2005, the Nokia 3315.
And did you always use that instead of the home phone? Well, did you make calls with it a lot?
Well, I didn't have any friends.
Okay, Tommy. Sure.
I didn't have any friends because, I don't know, I wanted the latest Power Ranger toy. I don't know. I was not any child, though, so maybe I'm not Tommy.
But the thing is, if you used mobile phones for calling, that cost a lot more than a home phone, which is what I'm trying to communicate to you.
Well, when I had my phone, there was a plan where you could call people with the same provider for free.
That's great. I don't think Tommy's brother has it.
Okay.
Is all I'm trying to say. There's no way you can read into the show that he has that plan.
Okay, I get it. Okay, alright. Okay, I see your point. That makes sense.
Excellent.
But home phones also cost money. But yeah,
it's less.
You're probably right. It's less. I know about the Japanese mobile phone prices from 2001. Okay, so shoot me.
I think it's meant to be sue me.
You can say shoot me if you wanted to. If you really want to escalate things. Tomoki wakes up and wonders where the other children are. In the dub, he calls out and says, Takuya, help me! So again, even though he's slightly more grown up in the original, in the dub, he's still calling out for someone else to help him. Instead of, calling out for the general idea, hey, where are you guys?
It's a weird reaction right after we hear, I don't really want to take care of me.
Yeah.
Takuya, help me, specifically.
Yeah, Takuya Nichan. Then we see that Takuya wakes up and he yells out for everyone. In the dub, he's thinking about how the place is full of surprises, instead of, calling out for everyone, which is a much more reasonable thing, I think. Tomoki remembers his brother saying about how he has a habit of doing nothing by himself, and Tomoki says that he's not like that anymore, and how if something happens, he can always evolve. In the dub, he says how the old him was selfish, but now the new him is a legendary warrior.
And this scene is an odd one, considering what I feel like the episode is trying to tell you, and I guess I'll discuss it more at the end. But keep this in mind, how we begin the episode with, I've changed a lot.
Yeah. I guess we'll discuss at the end.
Mm-hmm. That's how this analysis goes. You conclude at the end. That's where the conclusion goes.
Yeah, the conclusion generally goes at the conclusion of the episode. Usually. Typically. We then see Izumi, and she's walking around a beautiful forest. And she's saying how they always make her, as a girl, do these sort of things. Which I'm really mad at that they had this line. In the dub, they effectively changed it only slightly and kept it mostly the same, where she actually says, what are these boys thinking leaving a girl here on her own? I'm like, okay, are you not able to fight for yourself, Azumi? I guess we know that.
And more than that, is she ascribing the tentacles pulling them into eyeballs in random directions as if they did this on purpose?
Yeah, she also blames them, and I'm pretty sure she blames them in both versions, and I just think that's weird. Like, take some ownership for yourself. Like, it's clearly, like, the bad guy, but also, like, look after yourself. Like, I love how we're seeing Tomoki saying, I can look after myself. I'm a grown-up now. And Azumi saying, I'm a girl.
And then she says something in Italian.
Yes, which is different in both versions. Like, the original has it as commotion, and the dub has it as beautiful, I think. I don't know.
Commotion?
That's what that's what my subtitle said.
I feel like mine said, like, the word in Italian, and it was written like commotion, like kamazzi or something, but that doesn't mean that means commotion.
I feel like the subbers of the one that I watched just sort of said, it sounds about right. Like, I know, well, these are the subbers, remember, that said Italian gibberish. So, I don't know. We see Kouji, and he's brooding, and he's silent. In the dub, he says that it's interesting, because we can't have silence. We see Junpei, and he falls over, which is great. In the dub, when he's calling out for the others, he calls Takuya Taki, and then when he falls over, he says, oh, beans, for some reason. I don't know why.
Taki is a solid burn name for Takuya.
I'm pretty sure he's used it before.
Hey, Taki. This is the, hey, yeah, JF.
Yeah. Come on, TJ. I'm pretty sure at one point Davis called TKJP.
Yeah. It was all foreshadowing, you see.
I wish Takuya would call JP TK.
That makes no sense.
I wish Takuya was not voiced by Matt, but was voiced by Davis.
No, you don't.
No, you know what I wish would happen? Instead of Rookie, we have Davis narrating the outro, and he says, wow, TK's got himself in a real jam. I mean JP.
I would die. They don't do that though. They don't really have personalities in the intro and outros.
Rookie did at the start of the series because she was saying, not bad for a gogglehead.
Oh, that's right. She did have sass. I forgot.
Now she's just sort of saying, hey, this thing happens. Like, she doesn't seem to actually show her personality from the previous season.
She's checked out because the Frontier's so bad. She's just like me.
I mean, I might be wrong here, but I think that she later on gets replaced by Bokumon narrating the intro and outro because the voice actor for Rookie had to go be in a musical or something.
Good on her. Step up.
She was pursuing things besides, hey, I'm just going to read the intro and outro to this show that I'm not on anymore.
You'd think they'd be able to get all the intros and outros down at, like, the beginning of the show.
I'm not sure this is the case with Frontier, but I know with Adventure, they were always, like, slightly just a few episodes after the actual release in Japan, but I might be wrong. So maybe it's the same for Frontier. But I know that was the case for Adventure, where they would always have, like, be 4 episodes behind in their production of how they aired. So they'd be given them, they'd be given them, they would change them, and, you know, they would write the lines, and then they'd voice act them. So maybe that's how they were doing them, but I'm not sure about if that was the same for the production of Frontier.
It just seems like an inefficient process for someone who only has lines at the beginning and end.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying there.
It's almost like bringing in the band to do the opening every time.
Tomoki sees a Digimon and he goes to evolve. And in the dub, is when I was rewatching this for the dub, I noticed that he's actually holding the detector upside down and the wrong way round.
He's in a rush.
And it's kind of adorable because he's like holding it out, but you can see that the clip is like on the side and it's also like flipped around. It's really funny. We see that Bokumon and Namon are outside. And Bokumon says that the green eyeball structure-y thing is one of the Warrior 10, and it's Sephirothmon. In the dub, Namon wonders if they're being watched, and he says they're feeling like they're being watched. Bokumon says, and he asks Namon, do you ever listen to yourself?
Do you feel like we're being watched? I don't know. I feel like we're being watched.
I swear, do you ever actually listen to yourself?
Boy, look at him go! Hi!
This is no time to stand there and wave. I just realized who that is. It's the legendary warrior Sakakumon. This is bad. This is very, very bad. It's terrible even.
You always say that!
I do not. But even if I did, which I don't, I'd be right most of the time.
I love these two.
When he says the Warrior 10, does that imply that this is the beast form of one of the Digimon?
Yes.
So is this Duskmon evolved?
I don't know.
Probably. Oh wait, no, we saw Mercurimon's shield. This is probably Mercurymon evolved.
I don't know.
If it's an option. I
Well,
don't know.
look at the colours.
It's green. That's his colour. Kind of. Or Randomon, but she's dead.
Yeah, but well, it's not Ranamon. I'll give you that. Naomon and Bokumon see Tomoki inside. Naomon calls out, and Bokumon says that he can't hear him, and how it seems that everyone right now is inside, and they have to figure out a way to get them out. In the dub, it just continues on from the last clip, and it's him saying how he's figured out who it is, and it's sort of weird because in the original, he already knew who it was. And Naomon, in the original, Naomon is asking him how they're going to get them out. In the dub, Naomon says that he always says that it's very bad and very terrible. In the original, Bokumon says he doesn't know how to get them out. And in the dub, Bokumon is instead saying, I don't always say that, and if I did always say that, I'd be right most of the time. And it's just really weird because they're trying to match the mouth flaps. So he's like, I don't always say that, and if I did always say that, pause, I'd be right, pause, most of the time. See, I have to say pause, because I edit out all the silences.
Did you mention how when Tommy tried to evolve, he did not actually evolve? Which is interesting, because when he goes spirit and then it fails, because he's being distracted by something, it implies that evolution takes time, even though all the other times it's instantaneous.
Yeah, so, which is good. I like that, where he was going to evolve, and the fact that there was a fireball that distracted him stops him, but it also makes all the other evolutions kind of look like, pretty sure they would have been distracted, and it's always implied that in other episodes, evolution just kind of happens. But this one clearly shows that it takes time. I also thought it might be because he's holding it the wrong way around.
I guess that's an option, but I feel like a fireball shouldn't stop him if he has legitimately done it when he's falling off a cliff other times.
Yeah, a lot of characters have done it when they're like free falling. Like, grabs onto Takuya, lets him go immediately. I'm still annoyed by that. Like, there shouldn't be a difference. We see Tomoki again, and he's calling out for help because he can clearly do this all on his own, and then he falls over. A man in a cloak shows up and asks if he's okay. In the dub, the man in the cloak asks if he's lost, and if he can help him. So, the Digimon introduces himself as a Suramon, which is an immediate up yours to anybody who knows the card games or the games or anything about Digimon.
I don't.
I know. No, but this is something interesting, and I'm actually glad that I have you for this episode because I read your notes, but I'll just ask you for the sake of the people listening. Did you know that Asuramon was the Digimon chasing him before?
I suspected he had like a similar face, and you could see like the edges of the horns and stuff. But I mean, like they gave you a sparing enough shot at the original one that it could have been something else. I mean, first of all, you knew he was a trap because it's in the title of the show.
Yeah, that's also very bad. Thanks, original version.
Yeah, Japan doesn't care about spoilers. We know that. And more than that, I mean, he's in this place where there's evil Digimon everywhere. But it also doesn't make sense because Tommy, like, fell down from a fireball that was just lobbed at him, and then this guy shows up as if he's defending him.
In a coat.
Which implies Asuramon lobbed a fireball. While the fireball was in the air, he dashed to the side, grabbed a coat, put it on, the fireball missed, and then he jumps forward and is like, ha! I'm here now! Like, running in front of his own stuff.
Yeah, it was very, like, I don't know, convenient of the speed of like, he has a cloak now. But what I was meaning to say is I was glad to ask you because I wasn't sure how obvious it was, and apparently the answer was kind of, but the show also lies to you. Anyway,
it's like Heavy Rain.
Oh my gosh!
Where the character who is the murderer, in his head you can hear, I really got to catch the murderer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can argue like that he was having like a psychotic episode there, maybe.
No, that character isn't like that.
Oh, okay, so it's just lying to you.
That game just straight up lies.
I haven't played Heavy Rain, so I'm not sure. Anyway, what I was saying was this is an up yours to anybody who knows anything about Digimon, because we've seen Asuramon before Frontier, I'm pretty sure in some of the games, maybe in the cards, but definitely before this. And the thing is, you know who Asuramon is, and you know that that's the character who was fighting him and chasing after him, trying to murder him. So it's almost like it's besides the obvious Japanese title, which is a bit of a screw-up, I think. In the dub, at least, you're punished as a fan of Digimon for knowing this, because this mediocre at best, like, slight plot twist is kind of like told to you. Like, he introduced himself as Asuramon. Wouldn't it be better if he made up a name for himself?
Maybe, but I think what's more important is you have to remember that the surprise isn't really for the viewer. The viewer obviously gets surprised in the process, but it's not like The Sixth Sense or anything, I guess, where the twist is the movie. In this circumstance, you have to think the tension comes from if you know that that's a Surumon and that's evil, to be like, Tommy, you have to figure it out and like work this way. Now, the rest of the episode doesn't make any goddamn sense at all, and I will cover several of those moments coming up as we walk around with Mr. Asuramon and Tommy, his new best friend.
They're the best friends. What's Asura backwards? It's...
Asura would be Arusa.
What if he just introduced himself as Arusamon?
That'd be funny.
Like, oh no, I'm not Asuramon. No, that was that guy. I'm Arusamon. And he just says, haha, I was Asuramon all the time. I would have been so mad. Like, there was a moment I was like, oh no, Asura is Asura backwards. Like,
thanks,
oh no.
Alucard.
Yeah, like, did you know that Dracula is Dracula backwards?
No, it's not.
I know. No, but I feel like I was punished as a fan of Digimon for knowing this. I don't feel like as a kid I might have picked up on it, maybe. I can't remember. It was 10 years ago when I first watched this.
Did you know that palindrome isn't palindrome backwards?
That's constantly annoying me.
What would it be? So if it had to end with drome, so it'd be Drome, so it'd be Emord. Emordrome. Emordrome. That could work.
Emodrome.
Emodrome.
You know, it's an Emodrome.
Yeah, that would actually work. I mean, I don't know what Emmer means. It probably doesn't work as a Latin transition or whatever. But yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Synonym has no synonyms, by the way.
Welcome to the Lost in Latination No, Latin in Translation Mon. That's our new podcast where we talk about Latin.
LostinTranslationmon.
Yeah, like our Lane episodes are Lost in Translation Mon.
Solid.
And our episodes are going to be called Serial Episodes Lane.
Fair enough.
And the synopsis part is going to be called Synopsis Episodes Lane.
Wait, what's synopsis part?
When we talk about like the brief recap thing.
That's the whole... Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know. I'm still planning those episodes. I've taken the last couple of days doing that. Anyway, back to what we're doing now besides the Latin. That's it for the Latin cast, by the way. You can subscribe to our new podcast, the Latin Cast.
No, it's not. It doesn't exist.
It never will, because I don't know Latin. I barely know Japanese. I barely know English. Let's be real. Anyway, so yeah, Asuramon introduces himself, and Asuramon says that he's glad Tomoki's safe. In the dub, he says that Tommy is a very nice boy. Tomoki is happy and he asks where they are. Asuramon says that he woke up in this place, so he's not sure either. And Tomoki wonders if everyone else is okay. And he explains that he was separated from his friends. And Asuramon says not to worry and that he will help Tommy look for his friends and they're going to look for them together.
Great idea.
Great idea. And Tomoki's very trusting, but I don't have a problem with him being so trusting. Like, it doesn't feel like he's trusting because the script says for him to be. He's trusting because he is an 8-year-old boy. And I feel like this is an alright moment for an 8-year-old boy. Like, he might say, oh, this is a friendly stranger. He saved me from a very dangerous thing. He is not going to, give me candy in his room. He's trusting. I can trust him.
I honestly think the English name of this episode should be Stranger Danger.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Tommy was never taught Stranger Danger, apparently.
Well, I think it was only in I guess it's 2001, but I feel like it was in the mid-80s where they started spreading that around with Stranger Danger. And before then, when kids would disappear, it was just, oh, they've run away. 99% of the time. And the police just wouldn't look for them because they didn't care. They're like, oh, well, they ran away. They did this, they were off them themselves. But, one really big child abduction case, broke it open and everyone starts realizing, oh, kids disappearing is often not voluntary.
Jeez. That must have been an eye-opening moment.
Yeah, there's a whole documentary about it.
Jeez. We then see Kouji, and he's walking through a forest, and he hears noises in trees, and he hears laughter. Kouji asks who's there, and the voice says that Kouji doesn't know him, but the voice says that he knows him. He says that Koji's nothing. In the dub, he just says that he knows who he is, and that he's the one he's looking for.
I'm who you're looking for.
Oh my god. Are you Kurumon?
No.
Kouji evolves straight away, and the voice knows his name. In the dub, he knows his name, obviously, but he keeps on calling him Puppy.
How does he know his full name?
I feel like it's because Sephirothmon maybe told him.
How did Sephirothmon know about it?
Because Sephirothmon is psychic, I guess.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess once you're putting psychic powers into it.
we find out that it's Karatenmon, who was like a bird ninja thing.
Oh, I didn't see the N. I just thought it was Karatemon.
No, it's Karatenmon. I believe it's some kind of blade.
It's much more interesting as Karatemon, though.
Yeah, he's Karatemon, Karatemon. Kouji asks how he knows about him, and Karatenmon asks for his spirit, and again in the dub, he continues to call him Puppy, which I kind of like. Like, that's he's being a bad guy. He's like, I'm going to insult you. What are you? You're a wolf, so I'm going to call you Puppy. I kind of think it's cute, but I also like it. Back to Tomoki, because we can't just have an episode about Tomoki, it has to also be about Kouji.
I'm sorry, you mean Tomiki.
Tomiki. And Asuramon calls Tomoki his friend, and he helps him up a cliff. In the dub, he says he's really lucky to have a friend like him. Asuramon asks how Tomoki is, and Tomoki says he's hot and thirsty. And in the dub, it's weird because he doesn't seem as desperate. And I guess this is because the dub is setting him up to be like a slightly more reasonable person who everyone is just spoiling. Like, he was reasonable and his parents are spoiling him. And in the original, like, it just seems that he is constantly, complaining and people are just giving in to him.
I'm hot and I'm thirsty and I'm gonna die.
Yeah, so Asuramon goes to get him water in this lava kingdom.
And at this stage, I'm thinking, is the trap that he just doesn't come back? And because he insists, you wait here.
Or that he comes back as Asuramon and, like, burns him or something.
And then he doesn't, right? He comes back and he legitimately gives him water, and Tommy drinks it and he's fine. And I have to ask you here, because this is probably the first really big one, what's Asuramon's plan?
To get his spirit. Like, they're going to be friends, and then he gets the spirit.
Okay, and how do you get someone's spirit?
They give it to you, or you kill them.
Okay, so let's be honest. The second part's way easier, right?
Also, I'd like to say how many characters have said, hey, give me your spirit, and how many times has it actually worked?
Never.
Yeah.
So, if you have to kill this child to get the spirit out of them, that seems really easy once he's let his guard down. And even easier when he's dying of thirst and he trusts you. He doesn't know where to get water. Just leave him there for an hour and he'll die.
Or just push him into the fire.
Yeah. Like, I think once you put your hand around him, he's very small, you just dump him into the lava and you'll get the spirits out of him. It is nonsense that this entire episode even goes at all. Because what's Asuramon doing?
It seems like it'd be very easy to kill Tomoki, especially, in the Lava Kingdom.
Yeah, it's just a huge waste of time.
Also, I'm of the belief that all these Digimon that we're encountering are, like, not real Digimon. Maybe even the Honey Beemon we see in the next episode. But Ranamon's definitely a real Digimon because she's in there for some reason, which no one ever asks about or explains. So I'm of the opinion that Sephirothmon created these Digimon to, mess with the kids and to kill them, right?
Ranamon implies to me that's not necessarily the case. I think once you have one exception, there are others.
Well, maybe even the Honey Beemon, maybe. But all the other Digimon don't have Digi-Eggs when they die.
Well, I don't know. I guess I didn't look at that.
I did.
Has every other Digimon in the entire show had them?
Yes. Besides the ones in Sephirothmon, they have had Digi-Eggs because I noticed it in the first one that we destroyed in Sephirothmon, and then I've continued to watch them each time and they didn't. And I've noticed in the previous episodes before Sephirothmon, all the Digimon that they scanned the fractal code either became Digimon again, like regular Digimon, or became Digi-Eggs. These have just faded away. And the Digimon, sorry for interrupting, but the Digimon that they've destroyed look happy. Like, they smile in here, and it's terrifying. Asuramon, like, his face turns to the happier one, and he grins, and it's terrifying.
It just seems too complicated for these writers. It seems too subtle. You'd think that if that was what was happening, one of the kids would immediately be like, look, there's no egg coming out of it! Isn't that weird?
But I like it. I like it being subtle.
But it might not be really there. You might be reading something that doesn't exist.
No,
like modern art.
The Digi-Eggs are not there.
So? They probably just forgot to animate them.
And they've not forgotten any time before?
I don't know. I assume that they actually have, and you're just
misdistributing
it.
No, I'm definitely watching it, and it's definitely happening, and I found it weird. So, anyway, what I was saying was, what if, Sephirothmon knows that the kids are in there. Why doesn't he just, spin around a couple of times and kill the kids? If he slighted slightly, on an angle, wouldn't Tommy just, fall down and go into the lava?
Yes. Or he has another opportunity to kill him later and he chooses not to, which we'll also cover. Just Sephirothmon himself.
Yeah, just why doesn't Sephirothmon, slightly shake a little bit? It's his body, so...
Yeah, just shake around and the kids will be like the beans in a maraca.
Yeah, turn into a Marakamon. Back to where Kouji is. Karatenmon says that he can sense every sound and movement that Wolfmon makes, and he can read his heart, so no matter what attack Wolfmon uses, he can see it beforehand. In the dub, he does the old cliched, I know your moves even before you think about them or before you does it. Thinks about doing it. And I'm just like, that's so cliche. I understand, you're able to read, his motion to say, okay, you're about to do this attack. But the whole, I know what you will do before you even know what you will do makes no sense unless you're psychic, and that's not what this character is, and I hate this cliche when it's not explained.
No, he has the Sharingan.
Oh my god.
You'll get it if you watch Naruto, which I understand will become your favourite show immediately.
I'm not that much of a weeb.
Oh, you've never tried.
I mean, I do read V-Jump, but I'm not a weeb.
You mean Vump?
Vump. Back to Tomoki, he's waiting for a Surumon, and he remembers sitting on a park bench. And he remembers how he was tired, and his parents gave him a rest. His brother said that they already rested, and Tomoki says that he wants orange juice and ice cream. And this is the same in the dub. The mum asks Tomoki's brother if he wants anything, but he says no. The parents walk off, and the brother sits with him and asks him if he thinks that his parents will ever get tired of being nice to Tomoki, and he says how every time they go out there's always somebody helping him, and he says that it's not a healthy way of thinking. In the dub, he says how he's, setting himself up for disappointment, and everyone's doing that for him as well, because this isn't how the world works. And I really like this scene in both versions. He's being quite reasonable in this, and he's not having a tantrum. He clearly cares about his brother, and I really like that. And it's also helped in the dub that it's voiced by Taichi, who is a very caring brother.
No, you just don't get it. I'm the favorite, and you're jealous.
Yeah, and Tommy's Tommy's worse in the dub. He's saying, well, you're just jealous because I'm the favorite. In the original, Tomoki doesn't really understand. He says, I don't understand what you mean. And the brother says, look, you're just getting worse. Tomoki jumps off the bench and says he can't help it if his parents are nice to him because they always do what he asks. In the dub, he says how they're always nice to him because they just are. And the brother walks off and goes home because he's sick of this. And, this is... I think the brother's actually quite well written.
He's reasonable.
Sorry, go on.
He is reasonable, but you can also tell he's quite young, so he doesn't have the best way to argue everything, and he's arguing with someone who isn't reasonable because they're a tiny baby.
This is probably, the best written character in Frontier.
It's upsetting that's accurate.
I'm not even joking, because he's not acting so mature, and he's not acting super annoyingly immature either. He's just sort of he's saying, I'm going home, tell mum and dad I'm going home, and this is a teenager. He is acting like a teenager will act. I mean, I'm an only child, so I don't have a younger sibling, but I can imagine a teenager acting like this. And he also has his brother's best interest at heart as well. He's not upset with him because he doesn't get the same treatment, or, because the younger child's getting he's the baby, he's getting looked after better. He's saying, look, I'm worried about you. I'm worried that you're going to be disappointed when you're older because, no one's going to give you all this. And I'm really angry because Frontier, you gave the best development, well, not development, but you gave the best, writing and motivation to a character who's in the show for one episode. My friends, Frontier writers, my friends, my amigos, what are you doing, buddies?
Are you sure that he's the best written, though? I thought that Bergamon's wife was a really convincing character.
Because she kept on passing out?
She was sad that her husband got kidnapped. That was something that we can all understand.
Okay, that was fine. But, real talk,
I think we've real talked about it enough.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that...
Yep, I get that.
Yeah. Anyway, so Tomoki stops remembering this, and he thinks about how his brother didn't know that not everyone was nice to him. In the dub, he's thinking to himself, and he's wondering why his brother was so mean to him, and then it must be hard knowing that his parents love him more. I'm like, wow.
God.
Talk about 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, right? It's really annoying because the dub keeps on balancing, okay, Tommy's reasonable, to Tommy's not reasonable, to Tommy's reasonable, to Tommy is average, and now to Tommy is just awful.
Does this imply that what he's doing with Takuya is I need a new brother to replace my old brother? He's crap, I bet mom and dad will adopt this one.
See, the fact he's never mentioned having a brother before, and a few episodes, or maybe 10 episodes ago, Takuya mentions that Tommy doesn't have a brother. I don't think it's the writers just forgetting about it or not paying attention. I feel like it's because Tommy's never mentioned it, so Takuya thinks he's an only child. And it's weird that Tomoki wouldn't have mentioned his brother. Like, that just seems weird to me.
He's always too busy talking about how everyone's bullying him, and which included his brother.
Yeah, but he's never mentioned, oh, my brother was a big bully.
Because he's just one of infinite bullies in Tommy's life, besides his parents.
But in the original, he doesn't actually say that his brother's a bully. In the dub, it's like, well, my brother was so mean to me. In the original, like, he's kind of like, oh, my brother just didn't know how I was bullied, so I needed this reassurance from my parents. Asurumon returns, and he asks Tomoki what's wrong. Tomoki says he was remembering something about his brother, and then he says, oh, my brother was always kind of, like, a bit harsh on me. Asurumon says that if he was mean to him, then he's a horrible brother, and it's unforgivable, and how those that can't get along with him are the worst.
And he's like, he doesn't deserve to exist.
Yeah. But Tomoki says, to be fair, I was also kind of bad too. Asurumon says that kind of person never comes to a pleasant end. Which is kind of like, okay, they're going to have a bad life because they're terrible. In the dub, he straight up says they don't deserve to live, which is what you were just saying just then. And then Tommy questions it, and he says, I'm just kidding.
You know, how everyone threatens your siblings with death?
You know, it's a good chuckle.
Yeah, that's classic. Classic, Bob. Thanks for that one. Yeah, you put the chainsaw down, though.
Oh, then they walk off. Back to Kouji, Karatenmon and Wolfmon are still fighting, and Karatenmon says that Wolfmon is acting like a true warrior, but no matter how strong he is, he will still have a weakness, and how everybody and anybody can see that Wolfmon has a weak heart, and how he has deviated from the need of friends. In the dub, he says he's weak because he never asks for help.
Which is the opposite sense. It's like, oh yeah, you're weak because you have friends now. Isn't it awful?
Yeah, this scene is basically flipped between, like, what they're saying in the original and what they're saying in the dub, and it's a really weird, like, almost that I was questioning the subtitles because it was so different. Wolfmon is shocked, and Karatenmon says his weak heart is in the palm of his hand. In the dub, he says that he needs allies. Back to Asurumon and Tommy. Asurumon is taking Tomoki up a hot mountain, you know, as you do. And Tomoki says he doesn't want to go because it's too hot for him and how his friends would have never taken him up there.
It's kind of mirroring that flashback in the park where he sits down with the fountain where he's like, I'm done, I'm not walking anymore, and he does it again here.
Yeah, but it's also because he's saying, look, I don't really want to go up there, I'll kind of die. Like, and I think he's being reasonable. I feel like I wouldn't want to go up there. In the dub, he says, we're not going up there because my friends wouldn't be up there.
You've run in hotter weather than that.
Yeah, well, I guess Australia is kind of like, you know, with the lava and stuff.
More or less.
You know, the typical Australian weather of lava going down the streets, trees being on fire.
I walked over some of that stuff yesterday. It's okay.
It's alright. We have solid shoes in Australia. Asurumon says that his listen to everything is said, and how he even saved him from the cliff and from the Digimon, and how it's time for Tomoki to listen to him, because that's what friends do. Tomoki says that he's wrong, and he remembers that his brother says that friends think about others, and how Asurumon is only thinking of himself, so he's being selfish.
But,
yeah.
You were going to die, and he got you that water. He went out of his way for that, if you recall, and he appeared to save you from certain things. In fact, besides wanting to walk up there, Asurumon has asked for nothing else. He could have.
Yeah.
And this is the first time he's ever asked for anything, and Tommy's response is, stop being selfish.
Yeah, no, this part is weird, because I agree with you. It's kind of like, you know, you should kind of repay his favour. But if I were to be on Frontier's side here, which is kind of hard, at this point, I would say that he's saying, okay, it's good to repay favours, but not in the way that could potentially hurt you. Like, you should still care about yourself. You shouldn't just blindly follow.
That's not what he said. He didn't say, I will be in danger, so I'm sorry that I can't help. He said, you're being selfish asking this of me.
Yeah, I feel like he said it the wrong way. I feel like it should have been said as, look, you know, it'll put me in danger, and I'm not going to do something to make you happy if it actively puts me in danger and could hurt or kill me. But they don't actually say that, but I get that that's the impression they're kind of meaning to say, but yeah, they don't say it.
My response to you is, you're right, Frontier is badly written.
Oh no, not anything but that. Asurumon says that... Wait.
That means they're not friends at all.
Asurumon says, well, we're not friends at all, and then he reveals himself to be the Digimon that he was shown to be before, and was like, whoa, big plot twist.
With, like, personality switching heads.
Yeah, which I think is cool. Like, he has anguish and passion, and I feel like it's a pretty cool thing. But we'll discuss that in like Digimon designs, I guess. Back to Kouji, Karatenmon says to Kouji how his heart isn't happy because he can't keep friends, and how no matter how many friends he makes, he doesn't seem to understand what feelings are and what to do with him, and that's his weakness. Wolfmon then asks Karatenmon how he would know. Wolfmon says that he's strong because he has friends or his family, but he doesn't necessarily have family. In the dub, Wolfmon says that he doesn't need friends because they're a weakness, and that they just leave, and he doesn't need friends or family.
This is the complete opposite.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before. Like it's so different. It's almost like, how did they get this? It's going from saying, look, my friends are my family, and that they keep me strong. And the dub, it's like, I don't need anyone. I'm an edgelord. Ugh.
It's just how they want to position the character, but it really changes where he's at with his character development from somewhere to nowhere.
Like, in the dub, Koji's like this big edgelord, and in the original, he's a medium edgelord, but in the dub, he's kind of like, I listen to the best music, you probably wouldn't have heard it before. And he kind of reminds me of like this person, and I think I might have told you this story once.
It's MCR.
Yeah, MCR, and I'm just going to stay in my room and listen to MCR, you guys. I put my middle fingers up to the prips.
I don't know if you've ever seen, there's like a 30-second video out there of somebody scream singing Black Parade in a graveyard. They can't sing very well.
Me too.
But they're really, really passionate about it.
That's my aesthetic. Anyway.
It's painful.
So, I want to tell you this story, and I'm pretty sure I've told you, but I want to tell the listeners. Okay, so this is the type of character that I think Dub Kouji is. So, when I was young, I was just starting to work out that if I pretend not to know things, it can annoy people. Nowadays, I do that because it makes people laugh, and that I like to make people laugh. I like to entertain, so I will sometimes play the fool. And, I mean, I'm not usually want to say this, but I'm not dumb. I'm honestly not dumb, right?
You're not, but you know what? There are a lot of times where if you seem to not know things,
it is 99.7% on purpose if I am not knowing something, because I'd sometimes play things up for a joke.
Well, when you do those sorts of things, oftentimes it makes you look dumb. I'm letting you know that now.
I know, but I do it now to entertain people because usually if I'm acting like really stupid and making people laugh, like it might not necessarily be how I actually feel or what I actually know, but it entertains people, so why not, right? Because I love to entertain. I love to make people happy, because making people happy, and if this is selfish, makes me happy, and that makes me so happy because I want to be happy. Anyway,
I don't know for other people what impression it gives them.
But before that, I was like, no, I think I was 11 maybe. Yeah, I think I was 11. I was like in year 5, maybe year 6. And it was back in the days of MSN, so that was Windows Live Messenger, and often these big chats would open, and everyone would invite 50 of their friends. And it would be these huge chats, and of course you would add everyone in the chat on your friends list. So I added this bloke, I'm just going to call him Zach, I can't remember his name. It was some name, I don't know. And I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, so I hope you're not too bored. But I personally find it a funny story, so I'm going to bore everyone with the story. So we were talking, and my email was something along the lines of Rock Princess, or Princess of Rock, or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, I remember.
So he was kind of like, hey, you like rock music, right? And his email was like, AC/DC is really cool. And I was like, all right.
I have heard this story.
Yeah, it's a good story. So I was like, yeah, I love rock. And he's like, oh, so you know who AC/DC is? And me, being Australian, of course I know who Akadaka is. Everyone knows who Akadaka is. If you are Australian, your parents would have told you about Akadaka.
Mine didn't. I had to find them myself.
That's so weird.
My first song that I really loved from them, Born to Be Wild.
Oh.
Thanks, LimeWire.
Thanks LimeWire. Oh, yeah, basically. So, yeah, I knew who Akadaka was. I knew my rock music. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a princess of rock by any means, but yeah. So
more like a whiz of rock.
Yeah. So I said, yeah, I love Akadaka. And he was like, okay, what's one of their songs? And I was
Why is he doing this?
Because he's an edgelord. That's why I said that's why I'm telling this story, because this is who I imagine Kouji to be. So imagine this story as me on a chat with Kouji, okay? In the dub, obviously. So I'm sort of saying, all right, time to have some fun. They did Addicted. You know, it's not too far off the wagon. You could kind of say, oh, it's the same maybe genre. And he says, that was Simple Plan. And so, oh, yeah, of course. They did, I think it was, I said American Idiot next. And I was like, no, that's Green Day. And then I was like, all right. They did What's My Age Again. I said, that's Blink-182. And I was like, all right.
I said it was everything. Are you sure he's not the rock princess?
Yeah, he's such a rock princess. Kouji is the rock princess. So I was like, all right. Like, I can see he's starting to get, like, visibly upset because he's going from, like, you know, ... to exclamation points. And he's starting to use, like, emoticons of, like, fire in their eyes. And just kind of like, all right, I got this guy. So then I think the next song was, I feel like it was Avril Lavigne. I think I said, oh, it's Complicated. And he was like, that's Avril Lavigne. And I was like, all right, showstopper time. Or I can do this.
It's Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
No. I started typing and I was like, I was feeling so good. Like, I was entertaining myself. I wasn't entertaining him. He was getting upset. You can tell, like, through, like, his emoticons, he was, like, bawling. Like, oh, he was so mad because he was an edgelord. He was, you know, oh, rock, yeah. And then I said, all right, I definitely know what they do. You know what? You're right. I know what they do. They did Toxic. And in all caps, with like 50 exclamation points, he says, that's Britney Spears. And then he blocks me.
Yeah, good ending.
So, I'm sorry that was boring, but that was clearly Kouji Minamoto that I was talking to that night. I never met him in real life, but I like to think that sometimes, wherever he is right now...
He has a Digimon and you don't.
God damn it! He's, like, thinking to himself, God, what about the person who thinks that Toxic was done by Akadaka?
I don't think he... You know, it's probably been, like, 10 years. Probably doesn't think about it anymore.
Oh, I like to think he does. Anyway...
I still think about weird stuff that I'm sure other people don't remember.
I think about that story daily, because it makes me so happy. I'm so glad I was able to share that with everyone.
All the ones I remember are embarrassing.
Yeah, but I did that a lot. I like to upset people. But I don't anymore. I just like to entertain people. Which I feel like is a better outcome, right?
Yeah, it is.
Alright, so, yeah.
So Asurumon's like, Tomoki, just give me a spirit now.
A bit before that, sorry. Akara Tenmon asks Kouji about his mother, and then he says, that's Britney Spears! Yeah. Alright, yeah, sorry, you continue about Asurumon?
He just asked for Tomoki for a spirit, which, first of all, we've established that never works. Second, was his whole plan to get him to the top of the mountain, then say, okay, give me your spirit? Because if his plan was to put him into danger, there was a lot of other ways to do it, right? To just rip the Digivice off him or something, which we know the bad guys can touch, because they're not holy objects in this one.
Yep.
I don't know, just Asurumon's whole plan looks really stupid from a distance, which means the whole episode's really boring, because there's no tension in it. You're just like, oh, bad guy's a moron.
So Tomoki's spirit evolves, and I was about to get really mad, because, of course, Snow on Fire would never work, and I'm glad it doesn't work. I'm actually really happy. In the dub, Asurumon comments about how silly he is for being so out of his element, and trying to use ice on fire. I was like, thank you. Like, this was a good addition. I'm glad.
What do you mean? Ice becomes water, which puts out fire. It's
yeah,
easy.
But it clearly melts before it's able to make an impact, and we're in Asurumon's element, and apparently elements are really important in this season of Digimon, so I'm willing to let it slide.
Except
on
that
an
they're
ice.
also often not, because there are elements that should have worked that never did.
Shh, it's okay. Pedantics.
That's my middle name.
Yeah, J Pedantics. Whatever your last... Yeah.
Good on you! Good on you for knowing me for years and not knowing my last name.
No, I was trying to work out whether I should go with your real name, which is on the podcast.
You said J at the first word. Give me a break.
That's why I hesitated. Kara Tenmon says to Wolfmon that his heart is always in solitude, and how his friends aren't enough to be family, and how his heart will always be in solitude. In the dub, he says how he's denied himself friends and families, and how it's foolish to allow yourself to be lonely. So it's sort of different because, you know, he's saying, oh, you're just alone, and because you allow yourself to be alone, and in the original it's just like, no, friends don't count.
You know what the ultimate problem with the English version of this is?
What?
He's just giving him reasonable advice.
Yeah.
Like, all of the other ones are saying you are worthless and you've made terrible decisions and there's nothing you can do to solve them. In this one, in the Japanese, he's like, all the things you have done are worthless, so obviously you have problems and you can't solve them. In English, he's like, this is your problem, this is how you solve it.
Yeah.
Now we'll fight, I guess.
Then Wolfmon slide evolves, because apparently that was enough to upset him. Garurumon is too fast for Karatenmon, which makes no sense, because I thought Karatenmon was meant to know things before he knows things.
No, you forget, Kendo's much better than karate.
Oh, I guess that solves that age-old question. What's better, I guess.
That age-old question being the question that 10-year-olds ask.
I like that.
That's the age.
Yeah, who would win in a fight, karate or kendo? But, like, real talk, I feel like you made that joke before you realised it was Karatenmon and you thought it was karate.
I did, it's in my notes.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to get that. It was a good line.
I didn't realise his name was Karatepon until we sat down to record.
So he's able to defeat him now, which is weird because I feel like he should have Beast Spirit evolved from the start. Because he usually does do that.
Because we're admitting that beast spirits are much stronger than human spirits.
Mm-hmm. So he scans his digicode and again, the Digimon fades away with no Digi-Egg. Kouji remembers what Karatenmon says about his heart being in solitude, which I kind of like. In all of these sort of encounters with these Digimon, he's just kind of been like, maybe they're right. And that's interesting. One of the Sephirothmon eyes, like the light darkens in it, and Bokumon and Nemon are watching. We see that Tomoki falls off a cliff, and Asurumon asks if he needs help, and that if he gives him help, he will get his spirit in return. And then they said that they can both be friends even, because Tomoki doesn't have any friends. Chakumon pushes ice through the cliff and breaks the part of that Asurumon is standing on.
It's actually really cool.
Yeah, I really like this part. It's not only just cool, it is clever. Like, Chakumon's thinking, okay, I can't beat him by just fighting him, so I'm going to push him into lava. I mean, it doesn't work because, like, of course, fire cannot kill an Asurumon. And he comes back and he says Tomoki's a horrible person for doing that, and he shouldn't treat friends like that, and that's horrible.
How dare you give me a bath?
Yeah, that's effectively what he did, right? And, he will show him because he doesn't know what, friends can do. Asurumon surrounds Chakumon in a circle of fire, which is kind of violent. And
I really wish Asurumon had been like, I'll beat you with the power of friendship.
And he just, grabs all his clones of his friends and starts throwing them at him. Well, we've seen that that's what they can do, apparently. Then Tomoki realised that his brother was just worried about him, and that this is why he was being so harsh, because Tomoki was always depending on everyone being nice and helping him, and Chakumon says that he's different now because he has friends and comrades. In the dub, he says his brother was right, and he just never appreciated it, and how his parents always gave him everything, and he never realised that there are people like Asurumon in the world who would never give him what he wants. Asurumon says that he doesn't have friends because otherwise they would be helping Tomoki. In the dub, Asurumon says that him and Tomoki are both the same. Chakumon says that everyone is fighting, so that's why his friends aren't helping him, and he's not fighting alone. He says that he won't lose and he'll defeat him and help everyone. In the dub, he's upset because Asurumon said they're similar, and he says that they're different because he has friends who need him, and he doesn't need them right now to defeat him. It's like this, badass moment of, I don't need them to defeat you, ha! He slide evolves, and then he starts to pray. In the dub, because when he smacks his bum, he says, right here, and it's kind of cute. Then he defeats him, scans Asurumon's digicode, who switches heads to the smiley head, and smiles, and it is weird, and again, no digi-egg. Tomoki smiles and he thinks about how he's going to come home and tell his brother that he loves him. In the dub, he's thinking about how Yukata, I think his name is, and don't think he's given a name in the original, and how he wasn't mean to him, and he was just trying to help him grow, and how Tommy now wishes that he was here. Tomoki returns to Bokumon and Nemon.
Oh,
and
he doesn't
the eye
just
goes
return
dark.
to him.
He floats.
He pops out of the eye and then floats down. Now, the floating down is not a thing that Tommy's doing. That implies it's something that Sephirothmon does. If he didn't do that for Tommy, he would fall and die.
The weird thing is, I'm pretty sure in the next episode, and I'm just going to say it now, when Junpei comes out of the eye, he falls. Maybe it's because no one likes Junpei. Maybe it's because Sephirothmon likes Tommy. Maybe Tommy's just a more likable character. I don't know. What do you think of this episode as someone who is new to Digimon?
So the problem with this episode, very clearly, is that Tommy's meant to have all this, development, but if you had the episode before this, you would never think that he would need it. In fact, he covers that at the beginning of the episode. I'm different now. I've changed, and I can take care of myself. But all of a sudden, he can't do that because of the needs of the episode. It's the same thing as when Takuya had his big breakdown and he had to have a bunch of character development, where you could say he wasn't like that before the episode where he was going to start his development. Then they had to drag him back a few steps just so you could really see what he'd be like at the end. or that when he ended up back where he was at the start, it will look like he changed, because they're really bad at character development. And so it was, at the end of the day, what's actually happening is you get to the end of the episode and Tommy says, "That's right, I am the way that I have been since the beginning of the episode." Or alternatively, what did I say he was saying? He doesn't develop, he just sort of realizes he developed, which is not interesting at all. It's not great. It's just a big waste of time. The episode itself was a waste of time because A, we knew that Asuramon was in the cloak. It's in the title of the Japanese one. And otherwise, what's happening in the episode? Tommy walks next to a stranger until eventually they fight, and Wolfmon fights a bird. What a great episode of Digimons!
I actually kind of like this episode. I mean, as a rating, I gave it a 6 out of 10, so I feel like that's a harsh rating, considering I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed the brother character. I felt like he was realistically written and well written, and I kind of wish he was part of the Chosen Children group, because I found him, I mean, they would have ruined him if he did that. I feel like only an episode's worth of writing was apparently all he deserved. I liked him. I think he was the best part of the episode. I wish he was the main character.
I think this is a circumstance where, like, someone has a sundae and there's a cherry on top of it, and they eat the cherry, and they're like, "That was the best part. I wish the whole thing was cherries." And like, but you don't have a sundae then. So you've ruined cherries and you've ruined everything else.
But also, you wouldn't want to eat a whole thing of cherries.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
all the cherries would make you like, I'm kind of sick of cherries. That's a good metaphor. What rating did you give it?
It's like a 4. It sucks.
Wow.
It's real bad.
I mean, I liked that we actually got some sort of development for Tommy. We actually learned something about his home life. We learned that he was spoiled, but we also know that he's bullied. So we also know that there's some character development there, and I think that's nice.
I guess there's something to be said for the Japanese one, but the English one drags it down far enough that I'm gonna give it the 4.
I thought we established that we would never judge an episode because of the English version.
Yeah, but it's Frontier and I don't care. There's no integrity to uphold. There was no Persona battle. There was none of that stuff. Although Tommy does kill Sauron, but then he doesn't have to fight his shadow. So obviously that whole thing doesn't happen. Like the I am the shadow, the true self stuff only ever happened to Junpei because, well, apparently not.
Are we onto the Obnoxious Synopsis guessings
That's
already?
why I thought you brought it up.
No, I didn't ask the question. So what did you how did you compare this episode to what you thought of Obnoxious Synopsis?
We'll just play back the thing I said 2 seconds ago and we move on. It wasn't a good episode. I'm always right about that. And the rating was 5. And you know, that's probably a more fair rating for it, considering the backstory and the brother is written okay. But also, leave me alone. It's a 4. And it was filler.
No, it was not filler.
Okay, fine. Look, there was a progression in that they beat an eye and then he got out of the thing. So fine, I guess.
Also, this is a mini arc.
It sucks.
I mean, yeah.
Unhappy
but
about that.
It's not filler. And yeah, what was the biggest difference between the English and the Japanese version that you noticed?
The parents.
Oh yeah, and also to an extent Tommy.
Well, yeah, I guess, but like you have to. It all comes down to the difference between a parent saying, "Are you sure you need that?" and "Okay, we'll buy you 3." Like that explains the way Tommy is and the way the brother is, and explains everything. So they're easily the biggest difference.
Yep. Anything else you want to say about the first episode that we watched this week?
No.
Alright, on to the second episode. This episode starts with Randomon relaxing, and she's saying about how she's got a new bit of the fan club, and it's tough being so popular, and she's got so much work to do. And then she's fanning herself with a fan, not an actual fan of her fan club, but a fan from her fan club, which probably a fan of her made. And she's fanning herself with this fan to be cool. Fan. In the dub, instead of mostly silence, she's wondering why she's looking at a fan of herself when she could be looking at her reflection. This is such a dumb line. Like, it annoys me. Like,
You mean it's a dumb character and she annoys you?
And also her voice annoys me in the dub. But in the original, she's not that bad. I kind of like her in the original. I know she's meant to be like, you know, this bossy diva prima donna idol. But that's fine. Like, she's a bad guy, but like, she's not obnoxious in that way.
I also want it noted that when I was young, I thought that prima donna, which is spelled Prima, Adonna. I thought that was pre-Madonna.
Yeah.
I thought it was what
Me
she
too.
was like before she became famous.
I didn't think exactly that. I knew it was prim, and I knew it was Madonna, so I just thought it had something to do with Madonna. Not that it was pre-Madonna. No, that's clever.
Pre-Madonna.
That's clever. Ranamon walks over to the water, and she looks into a mirror that magically appears. She doesn't question it, because, it's the digital world. And she asks who the most beautiful girl in the digital world is. Mercurymon's mouth appears, and he says he'll tell her, and says, of course, that she's the most beautiful one in the digital world. But then he says that's changed, because Fairymon is the most beautiful in the digital world, and he'd say that he wouldn't have said that if, she wasn't more beautiful. Mercurymon then says that furthermore, Shutamon is the strongest and most beautiful girl in the digital world. In the dub, this is mainly the same, except he's just saying, well, I'm only just saying what everyone is saying, rather than him just saying, well, this is just a fact.
So is Lady Digimon just not in the world at all?
Apparently not.
Or Angelwoman, or any of the, legit hot ones?
Orphanymon's in it, but, I wouldn't say Orphanymon's is, an object in that way. I mean, she does show her chest, but like her stomach, but it's not in that sort of way.
Well, assuming that it's a helmet on her head, that means that she has a face that can be beautiful.
But apparently it's only a competition between these two characters, apparently.
Well, I mean, from Mercurymon's perspective, that actually makes sense to... It wasn't evident in the Japanese, but it came evident very quickly in the English, because he kind of just says it, was that he is intentionally riling up Ranamon so that she goes and gets herself killed.
Well, in the dub, he says, whoever wins, at least one of my problems is going to go, right?
Yes.
He says, well, one of them is going to die, and they're both my problems. Which is horrible, because he's, this is his comrade. He's meant to, fight alongside her, and the dub is just him saying, oh, look, if she dies, I'll be happy. If she wins, I'll be happy because Azumi will be dead.
That's right, fight for the glorious Digimon revolution. Yeah. Digimon solidarity today, #Graviton and Bagman.
That's a joke that only the Patreon supporters who are listening will
it's
get.
It's okay, I hope you do, and if you want to get it, join our Patreon.
In the original, Mercurymon says a fight between girls is such a sight. And was like, whoa, that's creepy. That is so creepy.
Jerry Lawler over here. Oh, cat fight! Cat fight!
The puppies! If you like women's rights at all,
birdies,
never watch 90s wrestling or the female. The 90s wrestling's good. The female matches are terrible because women are just women. They're not characters. They're just oh, aren't these pretty things to look at?
Do you want to see an 80-year-old woman whip them out?
No.
It happens.
Okay, Mae Young's great. Because no one's trying to sexualize her.
You knew it was Mae Young!
She's the best. She
could have been the fabulous Moolah.
She was all hey, I want to be put through a table when I'm 100. I'm like, you are a good woman.
No. She got put through a table just normally. She wanted to get put through a table off the top of a ladder when she was 100.
What a stellar lady. Also China. But besides that, they did not particularly want women to be anything else than objects. So to be fair, Mae Young was 80, China... It was very muscly and was basically seen as a man because of how strong she was.
Big muscles.
So, yeah. Attitude Era.
Attitude Era, never come back, lol.
Good for storylines, good for everything else, not good for their women's matches.
You're right, it was really great when Val Venus, appeared to get his penis chopped off by the Japanese mafia, but then it turned out that the butcher's block was so cold that he had sudden shrinkage and the sword missed.
Oh, that's
the storyline!
Oh, wow.
Attitude Era was so dumb, I love it.
Attitude Era was great, but just
never coming back, lol!
Skip the women's matches.
Yeah, unless you want to see a lot of gravy and or pools.
Oh, and a lot of bra and panty matches.
Although, let's be fair, they got a lot better in 2000 to 2002, and then they got a lot worse.
Look, I mean, this is sort of on topic because Fairymon and Ranamon basically could be female wrestlers, right?
I guess more or less.
So
the hair.
It's not sort of completely off topic, but
it's really off topic.
I find myself as a pretty thick-skinned person when it comes to people being super misogynistic. I'll say, hey, that's not right, but I won't get upset about it. I can see that it's wrong and you shouldn't be super misogynistic or treat women as objects. But when I'm, watching something and the commentators are basically saying, wow, I hope she gets her breasts out, or hey, look at these puppies go, talking about her breasts, and I'm just this is a good commentary. You're not calling any of the moves. You're not treating them like wrestlers. Their storylines aren't, involving of I am the better fighter. It's always just them having cat fights essentially, and they're always about their looks. They're always saying, hey, look at those breasts. And it's just listening to commentary on the women's wrestling matches in the Attitude Era. And
It's just Jerry Lawler.
Even quite recently, in the last 10 years even, it's happened, and they've just been like...
Oh, the last 10 years is unfair, right?
Yeah.
Because the state of it right now is unrecognizable from 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, it only recently started, they only just recently started changing them to, hey, let's not have the butterfly on the belt. Let's call them women's wrestlers, not divas, because that they're women's wrestlers, they're not divas. And
that said, I think Lawler might have been more of the problem, like the commentary might have been more of a problem than like the treatment of the women in the storyline. No, the treatment was bad. But if Lita goes out there and Hurricane Rana someone and is a huge badass and then people treat her as a serious threat and she leaves and then he goes, oh no, the eye candy's gone!
Yeah.
Like, that's not her fault. That's not the writer's fault. That's his fault.
And the crowd says, this woman is and it says a very not nice term to call a woman because she won't show us her breasts.
Oh no.
Like, oh no, and they're all like, the bad guy is the man who doesn't want his girlfriend to reveal herself on television. Like,
Yep.
What a horrible person.
Look, the crowd back then was like primarily made up of 18 to 23-year-old guys.
It still is, but you know what?
It's not
They
anymore.
acknowledge, the female wrestlers now, and that's fine. And I mean, there's still the problem of that there's an Irish wrestler, and her thing is that she's a lass kicker. Get it? Because lasses,
This was an accident. It wasn't a problem.
I know. I'm just saying it's in hindsight, it's funny. I mean, it's not funny actually. It's terrifying. So lass kicker. It's funny. She calls herself the lass kicker because she
kicks lass.
She kicks lass, and it's a pun. And because she's Irish. But then of course they printed the shirt lass kicker, and it's a cute shirt. Like, yeah, you're a lass kicker. They also printed it as in men's sizes. There are these.
There are big dudes walking around like, yeah, lass kicker.
And it's fine because they're supporting a wrestler and they're supporting a female wrestler, and they say they like her as a wrestler. She's not just an object. She is a wrestler, and they're enjoying her storyline. But then you look at the shirt and it says lass kicker, and a guy's wearing it, and you're just kind of like.
I had something to say and I forgot what it was now.
Also, Bailey's the best.
Oh, we're just in there now. We're talking about wrestling.
Well, this episode was a wrestling episode. Even though the actual wrestling episode was the Beetlemon episode, this one can also be female wrestling.
Oh yeah, but so the crowd is like a lot more women now. I think you're looking, rather than before where it was 1 to 5%, I think you're now looking at 20 to 30 at least. I don't actually know what the numbers are, but that seems more likely.
Yeah.
And also the age of the crowd has grown in a lot of respects, in the sense that I would say that your average fan is closer to 30 than they are to 20, and there are more families in the audience. There's a lot more. Those numbers, the averaging to 30 excludes the children in the audience, which I think is a lot more, because it's a lot more of a family product than we're men and it's aggressive testosterone product, which is a lot less now. There have been improvements in the demographic, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
and it's good. I don't feel like the owner of the WWE is particularly happy, because I'm pretty sure he thinks of women as objects still, but...
Yeah, Vince is the kind of
I feel like his son-in-law, who's effectively running the show now, I'm pretty sure an active feminist, and he loves his wife, and they're playing bad guys at the moment. So, I mean, this is hard, because it's like, he's a pretty big feminist. He's like all for, we need to treat our female wrestlers more than just females who, put on skimpy things and slap each other. We need to treat them as athletes, and because they'd work just as hard as the men. And then, we have him as, that person. Then we have his character who's all like, I'm bad and I have a skull and I'm evil. And he basically just does horrible things because he's a bad guy.
Did you see the video he put out today? Where he's like, people have asked me, who is a bigger office, me or Stephanie? And I really gotta say, it's not the size of the office. It's how you use it. Because, a big office, well, maybe no good work's coming out of that office. And if I had a small office, well, good work's coming out, so it's a better office. What I'm trying to say is I have a gigantic office.
But yeah, and both their Instagrams say, I play a bad guy on TV, which I find is adorable.
You're just in love with these two people you've never met because they have dogs and daughters.
Yeah, and they're doing stuff that is fantastic for female wrestlers, and that's good, and I like that. Anyway, back onto the actual Digimon.
Do we have to? Can we just make this a wrestling podcast now?
Welcome to LostinTranslationmon.
Oh, I mean, Lost in Trans Wrestling.
Yeah, we compare New Japan to the WWE.
That's okay. I'll do that. Can we do that instead? Can we talk about how Shibata got injured and it's really sad he might not wrestle anymore?
I was just going to say, okay, we compare Shinsuke Nakamura in New Japan to Shinsuke Nakamura in the WWE.
Well, his dub, not so good.
Oh, I feel his English is fine.
The problem with his English is not the things he says, but it is how he says it. And it might just be that he has a mouth guard in, but he sounds like he has the worst lisp of all time.
It's the mouth guard.
I am here to fight you. Like, that's great. I appreciate the fact that he tries really hard, but I have to imagine, like, for me, that's fine. And what I wanted for him to intersperse that with aggressive Japanese so that you know he has the passion for it, so he's not always speaking slowly. But what I don't think is going to happen is that the 70% of the audience, which are, like, American hicks, they're not going to get it.
See, like, the best moment is always, like, Kenny Omega starting to speak in Japanese, and even despite being a bad guy, the crowd starts cheering because he's speaking Japanese.
Yay, Westerners speaking Japanese, it's the best!
Anyway, okay, now I'm actually going to draw the line in the sand because...
Where's the sand? I haven't seen any line.
Well, it's a wrestling intro song.
What?
It's Evolution's opening.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know that one. The line
So
in the sand.
I'm going to keep that. I was kind of like, maybe I should edit that. No, I'm going to keep that discussion because wrestling is great. And
Weekly poll, who's going to start watching wrestling because we won't shut up about it?
I'm so sorry.
Even though you just, like, mercilessly, like, ran over all of wrestling from, like, the 90s until 2 years ago as not worth watching.
Well, the women's matches aren't.
Oh, that's fair enough. I'm not even going to argue with you. I was watching a 2006 show, and I guess probably eventually brother-in-law, but at this stage, just my sister's boyfriend walks in,
Yeah.
and there's literally a 6 women in gravy match going on, and I'm not even paying attention because I'm cooking and it's just playing in the background, and he goes, "What's that?" And it's like the most embarrassing thing to try and explain.
Oh my god.
I'm like, it's not... If it was in 1998 or something, I'm like, okay, it's 20 years ago, things were different. It was 2006.
Jay, look, I did say I was drawing the line in the sand, though.
The line in the sand.
The line on my laptop, apparently. Bokumon and Naemon ask Tomoki where the others went, and Tomoki explains that they got separated, so he doesn't know. Bokumon hopes that they can make it out alright. Tomoki says that even he was able to win the fight, so the others will be okay. And I like this because it's him saying, he's always got sort of a low impression of himself, and he has such a high impression of everyone else. So he's saying, well, even if I was able to make it out, everyone else can.
Shouldn't his response be, I'll go help them?
Well, I don't think he knows how to get in, so he just has faith in the others, and I think that's fine.
Never addresses it, though.
Bokumon says that all they're able to do is hope and wait. We see that Izumi's walking around, and she's wondering where the others are, because apparently that's what everyone's been doing lately. Some Honey Beemon see her, and they comment about how she's the one who Ranamon was talking about, and how Izumi must be jealous, and how they'll defeat her for Ranamon. In the dub, they make all these bee puns, which I think's fine. I'm not sure if in the original they're making any bee puns, because...
They don't appear to be.
They don't appear to be, but I also wouldn't be able to tell, because Japanese puns are hard, and yeah. Izumi's wondering why she ended up alone. In the dub, she says how she's always alone, so she should be used to it. And then she remembers how she was alone back then. And I'm just going to, stop what we're talking about for a second. Because I'm really annoyed because early on in the show, she said that she doesn't mind being alone, and she actually prefers it. Now all of a sudden, she seems to be upset and complaining that she's alone. And it was always implied that she prefers her own company and likes to be by herself. And I thought that was sort of why she had a hard time making friends in the flashbacks that we were given in the Tsunamon episode, that she didn't really want to, have people around.
So what's interesting here is that they obviously did a very good job of foreshadowing all of Junpei's story development and what his backstory would be. For literally everyone else, they've had to actively change who they are right before they told you about their backstory.
Yeah.
And alter all the things they've told you before, which only tells me, especially at least with Tommy and Zoe, it tells you that a writer went, oh man, that went really well with that Junpei thing. That got really well received. Why don't we do that for everybody? Oh, but we don't have anything set up for anyone else. Just make it up. It'll be fine.
I think it was fine for Tomoki, but this one seems like an active, like, let's forget about what we already told them. And...
Well, Tommy's was a bit like that. His was, I've done so much, and then he gets to the end and he goes, I've changed so much. It's the same thing.
I feel like it was just sort of like a general, like, sort of slight change that he was doing throughout the season. Right now, it's just like, they're actually saying, hey, remember when we told you that? Shh, just ignore it. We're telling you this now. Azumi remembers being on a school trip, and how she saw a classmate with hurt feet because her shoes didn't fit well. So Azumi helps her by putting a band-aid on.
That doesn't solve the problem.
You've never... Oh, no, okay. So I'm going to enlighten you.
Yeah.
I am someone who wears female shoes.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot of the time is they don't fit quite right because they build female shoes for, like, a very certain foot type.
Sure.
I do not have particularly feminine feet.
Okay.
Or do I have any type of anyone's feet? So what happens is that your shoes will rub against you and you'll get blisters. And what basically helps these blisters is even before you get a blister, even when it just starts being sore, is you put a band-aid over it. And it helps 100% because it's covering up that little bit and it doesn't rub anymore because it's rubbing against the band-aid and it's not rubbing against you. It 100% works.
Oh, I just figured that if her complaint was my shoes are too tight and then you put a band-aid over the bleeding, it's like, well, that didn't make her shoe less tight.
Oh, I didn't get the impression that they were tight. I just got the
Literally
impression...
the wording she used.
Oh, no, in the original she just says, they don't fit well.
Oh, well, I read that as they're too tight.
So as someone who's...
I guess I wouldn't know about shoes very much.
As someone who has experienced this, it's because generally this happens with new shoes. And especially if you're not wearing, like, socks that are super thick, it'll just rub up against you.
I mean, this happened to me the other day with my new shoes. It was not female specific. I just don't complain about it.
I know, but it's something that, like, I guess it's like one of those female tricks, or, well, not necessarily female tricks, but people who wear
you can see the results on my heel.
It's something that my mum told me. It's like, if you ever have sore feet because of a new shoe, all you have to do is, no matter how serious the damage is, just put a band-aid over it or something to cover it up, and it'll be fine. So no, I find this is a fine bit. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I mean, I've just had this situation. It's the same as how I know how to get blood out of things. You just run cold water on it. And you were like, what? That doesn't make sense. I'm like, no, do it.
It doesn't sound like it makes sense.
And you're like, how do you know? And I just kind of looked at you for
I did
10
not
minutes.
say that. I knew how you knew.
No, you asked. But we won't go into why I know. You just...
I knew.
I've committed murders.
I'm sure.
I murdered someone because they said they didn't like Digimon.
But yeah, the bees are stupid and keep trapping themselves, and we don't need to go into every single detail about how it happened or what they said when they did.
No.
All we need to know is that they don't believe we're around trapping themselves.
They don't believe. Anyway, no, I just want to go through a backstory, a bit of a backstory real quickly.
I can do that part.
Yeah, well, you skipped past it.
No, I'm just saying.
So... Izumi says, I'll walk with you. And the girl says, wow, you're really nice. I'm surprised. And then she said, oh, sorry. And she said, I'm just glad I'm not alone. Izumi says that she's the same because since she came from Italy, she hasn't really made any friends. And how she thought she'd be alone all day anyway. In the dub, Zoe says that all the girls are mean to her, and the girl says that she's nicer than all the girls put together.
Also, her wording in the English is "since I came back from Italy."
Yeah, instead of come from.
So she's not Italian there. She just was a girl who was on a trip there once, and I guess became blonde on her way back.
I feel like she may be like half Italian, half Japanese, maybe, because she does have a Japanese name.
Yeah, I know, but just like in the English, it implies that her It implies that everyone hates her because she went on a holiday.
Yeah, it does seem like in the dub they're just sort of saying, oh yeah, maybe she was away for like a year, because it's sort of implied that she was there for longer than, a week or something, right?
No, she went for like a week and she came back and like, ooh, fancy Italian girl.
Yeah, and she comes back and already she's fluent in the language. Like, I'm pretty sure, she's Italian, dude.
She's not fluent, she says one word occasionally.
No, she says Italian gibberish.
Eh.
The girl says that they should have dinner together. Izumi stops remembering and she looks sad, and she continues walking. So yeah, the honey beemon do stupid things, try to trap her. It doesn't work out. Also, she uses her bum to break the cage. Then the honey beemon decide they have to work harder. In the dub, they think that Kazemon is acting false and doesn't actually care, and she's just, doing this to ridicule them. And then they try to trap her again. It doesn't work. In the original, when she sees them, the honey beemon say, "There are lots of dangers here." And Fairymon says, "Seems so," and then frees them. In the dub, they're just asking for help. They're saying, "Please help us." And then they try to cut down the tree, and then, it doesn't work again.
It's just a comedy of errors.
I think it's funny, though, actually.
So Kouji's just wandering around, Takuya sees a Parrotmon, and hey, it's Parrotmon!
Yeah, I love this part. I'm like, we haven't seen Parrotmon since the prequel movie of Digimon Adventure.
It's really weird that he's showing up here. It's really weird.
And it's nice. I popped for this. I marked out. I like Parrotmon.
I would have marked out if, like, a Goonimon starts fighting Parrotmon and they're, like, in heightened view terrace now, like, fighting up and down.
Well, not necessarily in heightened view terrace, but maybe if they
Where
could
does go?
No, what I'm saying is, what if they just, made, like, the rocks shaped kind of like buildings? So it's kind of like a little, like, reference, but not, enough to derail anything that's happening. Like, they're not suddenly in a city. Like, just sort of make the rocks formations kind of like buildings, the kind of like a bridge sort of thing. Make it a slight reference. And I would have liked that.
Instead of that, he just beats it. It's a big waste of time because they didn't have enough writing for Zoe and Randomon, I guess. So it's a huge waste of time, and they just move on. And he sees a big eye portal, and he touches it, and he makes a joke. And I just don't care.
But the thing is, in the original, he realizes that they're inside a living thing. In the dub, he makes a joke and says, "Hey, what are you looking at?"
How did they not instantly know that when they're inside the big corridor of flesh and bone?
Yeah, okay, but it was better than making the joke. So the Honeybeemon are feeding things to Azumi, and the Honeybeemon are happy because Randomon wouldn't eat all their food because she would get fat.
I wrote down at this point, does no Digimon know what poison is?
Well, Randomon does, clearly. I mean, it doesn't work.
Because Toucanemon... Okay, these kids are constantly being fed by bad guys. Tommy before, in the last episode with the water. These guys with the Toucanemon before, when they were eating the seafood. Zoe now eating this honey stuff. Every time they're given an opportunity to poison these kids, they just never take it. And you say Randomon does, but we'll see what happens, and she still doesn't know what poison is.
Also, the apple doesn't seem to do what she wants it to. She just kind of, like, is a nice person and snaps out of it when flowers hit her face.
She
like,
gets
it does nothing.
Kinda sad. Speaking of apples...
Yeah?
I want to skip way forward. It'd be really nice. So there's like ice cream and stuff.
No, I just want to continue what I'm saying. So in the dub, they tell her not to worry about making it fat like Randomon would. And of course, one of the Honeybeemon's like, "Hey, we can't tell her that," and shoves an ice cream into her face to silence him. And Azumi's pretty, like, generally grateful for the food, and she offers some to the Honeybeemon and says, it's better to eat with people and it's tastier, so we'll share. We see that Randomon's looking into a mirror, and she's upset about what the Honeybeemon are doing. We then see that Azumi's gone to sleep at a tree, which is a very dangerous place to go to sleep, but alright, she doesn't know she's in danger.
Well, so it wasn't dangerous to her. She had it was not like a judgment call on her part.
Mm-hmm. Then the Honeybeemon's picking flowers, and Randomon shows up and says, "Hey, are those for me?" And the Honeybeemon says, "Yeah," and gives them to her.
I was surprised there was no hesitation to that.
Which implies, and I like this, they're not, dropping their fan club immediately because they like Azumi more. They're still loyal to Randomon.
Well, no, they can still be loyal to Randomon and want to give flowers to Zoe. Like, you would think they're like, oh, I guess they could be, and like have it just be something. Even if you don't want a hesitation there for it to be like they force to give it to her, but as if you hadn't even thought about giving it to her, and it's like, oh yeah, that seems like a good idea. But no, instead it's like, yes, these are for you. You have caught me doing something for you, and there's nothing interesting going on.
In the dub, he's nervously saying, "Well, of course they're for you. Who else would they be for?" Randomon gives the Honeybeemon an apple and says to give it to Azumi because it's a bewitched apple. And,
We've got a mirror on the wall. We've got a bewitched apple. It's sounding real familiar.
Yeah, and Azumi's asleep, so maybe she's a sleeping Beautymon. I know, it's Snow White.
Why didn't they call the episode something to do with Snow White?
Because there's no snow, I guess, I don't know.
White.
What about Zoe White and the 3 Digimon?
And 3 bee dwarves.
And the 3 honeybees. Because they wanted to make a straight-up bee pun, okay? And it wasn't really an adventure. So they don't want to eat the apple because, Randomon's like, "Hey, that's poison." Randomon says that if you fail, I will kick you out of my fan club. In the dub, she's a lot harsher. In the original, she's kind of like, she's strict, but she's not like super harsh. And she's kind of cutesy in the way she says, because I guess her voice is like a lot sweeter. And she's like, "I'm so cute, I'm the best." And in the dub, she's just got that like southern accent, and she's just so harsh to them.
Why don't you do everything I tell? I don't know what she says. She's just really annoying, and I hate her. Yeah. I'm glad she's dead. Spoilers, she's super dead.
Izumi wakes up and the Honeybeemon gives her the apple, and the Honeybeemon looks so guilty, and it's kind of cute. I really like the Honeybeemon for multiple reasons,
Yeah.
and I'll get to the other reasons
She's
in a
about
bit.
to eat it, and they're like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Then she eats it, and she kind of appears poisoned, and she's like stumbling around, and then she's just sad.
And the thing is, Ranamon says it will give her hallucinations. No hallucinations are had. She gets memories. She just becomes kind of depressed. So they should have actually said it will make her very depressed.
Well, maybe she's getting visions of those memories. You don't know.
But she was already getting the memories before.
No, there's remembering them and having visions of them. That just makes them more real.
I know, but it's not shown to be in any different way. Like, she's not seeing the girl in front of her or anything. It just seems like she's having flashbacks. It's just not impactful. This is the worst part of the episode.
I mean, you're right, but no, it's not. The Paramon fight was the worst part of the episode because it was a waste of time.
No, it had Parrotmon in it.
Ah.
So Izumi has a flashback, and she asks if she can help.
Why wasn't Paramon in Vamidemon's position of being the best, the bad guy that was always around?
Oh, well, Kuwagamon is. Anyway, so the girls say that they don't need Izumi because they're making curry, not an Italian dish.
That's so awful.
Yeah, I know. In the dub, they say, it's not pasta, so you probably can't eat it.
That's worse.
Yeah, that's worse, because it's saying instead of like, oh, you probably only know how to cook Italian food, in the dub it's just like, well, pasta's Italian, so you can only eat pasta.
No pizza for you.
Yeah, only pasta. Pasta pizza? No, only pasta. You can only have pasta.
I made pasta pizza for you once.
That was delicious. Do it again, please.
No, I can't have it.
Then the girl from before calls Izumi over, and Izumi asks if it's okay if she sits with them, and the girl said that she did promise. Izumi walks over, and the girls ask why, and one of them says, hey, why don't you just, the two of you eat together? In the dub, the girls are actively horrible to Izumi. They just, instead of like being slightly passive-aggressive and kind of uncomfortable with the situation, they tell her to go back to Italy because they say, oh, someone might like you there. And that's just so unnecessarily harsh. And I say this every episode.
I just want to turn around and be like, no molto bene.
Aww. And then the girl says it might be better if Izumi goes back to her own group. Then Izumi yells and calls her a liar, and then the girl runs off sadly.
Because I don't know why. Like, it's really awkward how you go from, maybe go back to your own group, liar! Like, I get why she's calling her that, right? Because you promised we'd eat together. Mm-hmm. But you don't yell liar when someone makes a suggestion.
Yeah, it makes
You yell liar when they claim a statement of fact.
It makes more sense in the dub, actually, where the girl says that they've already used up all their pots and pans. That makes more sense to say liar to.
No, it's but it's like nonsense, because even if they have done that, then there's still food that is around to eat.
Izumi wonders why the girl was so awful, and Ranamon walks along and says that it's because no one likes her because she's weak and ugly. Then we see Junpei, because we can't just have an Izumi episode. No. And
we didn't just have a Tommy episode either.
Yeah, I know, but we did have the Junpei episode previously. Junpei sees a cherry tree and he says that he's hungry. In the dub, he mentions how this world is, all this world needs is a cheeseburger. And then, he says, but in this world, a cheeseburger may eat me. Then he says that cherries are better than a cheeseburger for some reason, because they're actually here.
What does that mean? They're better because they're real.
And as if the dub just foreshadowed this, the cherry tree starts to attack him because it's Cherrymon. Junpei evolves, and Junpei easily defeats a perfect level Digimon. And again, no Digi-Egg, and there's an eye, and in the dub, he's sad that he can't eat the eye. Then Junpei returns to Tomoki, Bokumon, and Airmon, and the eye that he was in goes dark, and Junpei sees Ranamon and Izumi shadows in one of the lit eyes. So that's all we get for Junpei, because we've already had his character development episode. It's like, you get an easy fight if you've already had character development, apparently.
Or if you haven't had it yet, like Kouji.
Yes.
Basically,
Well, no, Kouji had his character development in the last episode.
No, he didn't.
That was kind of...
Well, that was foreshadowing it.
Yeah, that was foreshadowing things. Well, the main characters get more. Have you noticed that the main characters have, the same body type, and the three, not-so-main characters have, different body types? We've got the child, we've got the fat guy, and we've got the girl. So apparently, they're not shaped like protagonists.
To be fair.
And that Kouji and Takuya have the exact same body type, and, basically, if you took all their different features, like the goggles or the clothes, they would have the exact same silhouette and you could not tell the difference. They are shaped like protagonists.
I think Izumi's the same shape.
No, she's taller, she's skinnier.
They're all skinny. The Digimon character design is giant heads and long limbs on skinny bodies.
Unless you're Junpei, you're just stuffed with chocolate.
Oh, I feel so bad.
But yeah, so that's the shape of a protagonist, apparently.
He doesn't even have it with him to eat, necessarily. It's there's trade goods.
Yeah, he's probably melted it by now.
Oh.
Back to Azumi and Ranamon. Ranamon says that if people say Azumi's cute and strong, she's ugly and weak. In the dub, she says how her friends are only pretending to like her, and they're pretending to be her friend. And that when she's not around, they say horrible things about her.
See, the weird thing about this whole section is that it is consistent with all the other parts of Sephirothmon, where like the bad guy says mean things about the kid. But you could argue in all of those circumstances, if Sephirothmon is in some way psychic and can sort of read them and do all the shadow stuff, then it makes sense that they would have those sorts of insights. Ranamon's an idiot. She wouldn't know any of this stuff. So she's just making it all up. Like, we know that.
Yeah. Then Azumi says that she's right, she's weak and ugly because the girl broke her promise.
That's not...
It makes no sense, but alright.
No correlation there at all.
And she's horrible because she couldn't forgive the girl, and it must have been really hard for the girl too. But Azumi couldn't have just said that it was okay. But it was tough and lonely to be excluded again, and that's why she wants to become kinder and strong. And, like, for starters, like, thank you for lying us in the Sunamon episode where she said that she was different because she didn't want to hang out with people. Like, this is saying that, okay, that's not the case apparently, and that's just really annoying. That, of course, like, oh, everyone must want friends. I really liked the Azumi in the Sunamon episode. It was kind of like, don't force Sunamon to like people because maybe he wants to be on his own. Like, I want to be on my own. There's all these flashbacks of, me having friends and people saying, hey, do you want to hang out with us now? And Azumi saying, not really, because she's her own person. And you know what? I like that.
I forgot about those.
Yeah. And all these people saying, hey, isn't this cute when they're going shopping? And she's like, it's not really my thing. Or them saying, hey, do you want to come to the bathroom with me? Not really. Like, she's her own person.
You're just forgetting the bit where after this, okay, it goes like this. Well, isn't this cute? No, I don't think so. Go back to Italy! Or,
yeah.
You want to go to the bathroom with me? No, I guess not really. Go back to Italy!
It's a complete change between how they were acting and that. Like, she seemed to have friends. Or she seemed to at least, like, have people who wanted to be with her. And all of a sudden she's saying, I was always alone. I never wanted to be alone. Yes, you did! You weren't alone, but you wanted to be alone. It's the actual opposite. Why?
You can't have character development for somebody who enjoys being an outcast.
Yeah, can we just have a character who likes being on their own, whose weakness isn't, oh, I wanted friends the whole time. Like, that's what we're shown Kouji's weakness to be too. Why can't we just have an introverted character who's quite happy being alone? I guess we have that in Rei from Atmon. Like, we have a character who's just kind of like, I will work with you if it benefits me, or if, we have to. But on this, like, I don't actually want to be with you.
But he has a friend who he wants.
Yeah, his brother and
Hakmon.
He's Atmon. But anyway, we're not talking about Atmon right now.
It would be a lot better.
In the dub, Zoe says how people always seem nice at first, and she wouldn't be able to know if people are lying to her. Then she says how she was cruel when the girl was cruel, and she shouldn't have been mean, so she's going to try hard to be a nicer person. And I really don't like this, because it goes from, in the original, Azumi wanting to improve herself, and she wants to care about listening to other people's feelings and not being horrible to them. And then there's Zoe in the dub mainly saying that, oh, I'm going to be nice even if people are nice to me, because that's what being a better person's about. Like, no.
Yeah, I'll be nice if people are nice to me.
Like, it makes no sense. Ranamon gets upset with her being so genuine, and she throws her flowers at her, and well done, Ranamon, you just snapped her out of it.
You unpoisoned her somehow? So the poison lasted 30 seconds.
Yeah, and it was like, well, that was clearly just there for the script.
Give her this poisoned apple. It will last 30 seconds and she'll be kind of uncomfortable. My master plan can never fail.
I mean, it's better than if they just said, okay, we've knocked her out. Oh, look, Junpei comes through with the eyeball and saves her. That would have annoyed me.
I would have laughed.
I would have been annoyed.
It would have made more sense as a story.
Yeah, it would have made more sense as a story, but it would have been annoying, again, how Azumi couldn't have her own thing. But I like how she's at least fighting her own battle here.
Yeah, so, it's great that she won her own battle because the opponents were so stupid they couldn't win.
Yeah, Ranamon's also very weak, apparently, and doesn't make Ranamon look strong. So, yeah, Azumi's spirit evolves, and Ranamon says that now they'll be able to settle who's cute and who's strong, even though, like, would she not have wanted to do this initially? She says that the Honey Beemon are members of her fan club, so they betrayed her, and they were trying to capture her the whole time, and she was so stupid that she saved them. Ranamon says that on top of being weak and ugly, she's also very stupid. I'm just like, wow, Ranamon, letting down the sick burns, alright. Ranamon tells the Honey Beemon to cheer for her, so they do. Ranamon drowns Fairymon. Fairymon spins out of the water. Ranamon's upset that Fairymon kicks her in the face when she comes out, so she slide evolves to Shootamon. So Ranamon slide evolves too. The Honey Beemon are shocked, but they say that she's still Ranamon and they're still part of her fan club, so they'll cheer her.
Take that, Toucanemon.
I really like this because, as you said, like the Toucanemon did not do that. They immediately ditched her because she was ugly. The Honey Beemon seemed to actually like her and to say, well, we're still her fans and she's still Ranamon underneath. So despite what she looks like, we still love her. I like that. So the Calmaramon says that Shootamon has no friends and that she's all alone. And Calmaramon drills Shootamon down into the water, and then...
But she didn't fly off go crazy. Is this the first time it's ever hit?
Yeah, it's shown that maybe she has control of herself now. Finally.
Too bad she's about to die.
Yeah. Shootamon comes to the surface, and she says that she wants to become kinder, and so she wants to become more strong. And in the dub, she's just taunting Calmaramon, which makes no sense, and it's annoying, because why are we taunting her? We should say this mantra of, no, I have to become strong and beautiful. And she's basically saying that Calmaramon is weak and ugly. The Honey Beemon drop their Ranamon fan club stuff and say that Shootamon is strong and is beautiful and kind as well, and they want to be her fans now. And I like this. They're not, saying, oh, you're more beautiful, so we're your fans. They're saying, you are kind. You're not just beautiful. You're not just strong. You are kind.
I wish they just were like, you're our waifu now.
Yeah, well, that's what they are now. You're not part of a fan club, you're waifus now. Calmaramon's upset, and she feels betrayed, so she goes to spit ink at the Honey Beemon, and Shootamon gets in the way. Calmaramon says that she's ugly now, and asks if the Honey Beemon will still cheer for Shootamon. Then the Honey Beemon say that her body may be turned black, but her heart is pure, and that Shootamon is beautiful. In the dub, they say it's inner beauty. And I really like this. This is so much nicer than the Toucanemon. This is a much better episode than the Toucanemon episode. I wish this was in place of the Toucanemon episode. Sure, we'd get less Azumi episodes, but this is better.
I thought the Toucanemon episode was funny, at least. This one was mediocre.
It was funny, but, can we not combine that? Can we not have characters treat girls like more than objects?
You're right, Frontier should be better written. But it's not. You just have to accept that it's not better written. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad show. We're more than halfway through it, and it never improved.
I hope it improves. Shootamon says that a woman must be kind and strong. She defeats Calmaramon and swoops in to grab her beast spirit, which no one's ever done before. Then she slide evolves. And then says, through a fresh wind, this Digivice will purify you into this beautiful and just soul. She is able to grab the human beast spirits of water like no one else was, because we can't. Apparently Ranamon doesn't deserve any more fighting. We'll just kill her now, I guess. In the dub, she says, your reign is over. I'd say it's been fun, but it hasn't. And I'm not sure if she actually means that as a pun, but I'd like to think that she does.
Which part, the fun part? Or the reign is over?
Your reign is over.
That's a pun intention, I can tell.
I'm
that
so
one's
happy.
Easy.
I wrote it as rain because I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a joke. I'm pretty sure that she meant,
It's the
rain.
English that's puns.
I'm glad. I liked that pun. That was funny. But it's obviously not, enough that I was kind of did they mean that? I'm not so sure.
It's too clever.
Yeah, it's too clever. Azumi says that without a beautiful heart, a woman won't make it, which is direct, contradiction to... Or maybe it's not, because I know in the beach episode she says that for a woman being strong isn't enough, or something like that. So I guess it's also about being kind, but it just seems like she was talking about being beautiful, being the most important thing at the time.
Be kind, and that way you'll rip the hearts out of all your enemies' chests.
Jeez. In the dub, she says it's one thing to be nice, but it's another thing to be a pushover, which, makes no sense, I guess. I mean, makes no sense in the context of the episode. The Honey Beemon already made fan club fans for Azumi, and it's adorable.
How?
They're very fast. The Eye shows up, and she comes down with the help of the Honey Beemon, as opposed to Tomoki, who kind of just flew down with the help of being shaped like a friend, I guess. Junpei grabs a fan too, and he says that he's the number one fan.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah?
If the bees... If the Digimon inside Sephirothmon aren't real, right?
Yeah.
So the bees are technically not real.
That's what I was saying earlier. I'm not sure if these bees are real or not.
Because
I just don't believe it.
if the bees aren't real, then you'd think that the fan isn't real, and once they're outside Sephirothmon, it would go away.
Maybe the Honeybeemon came with Ranamon into it because Ranamon clearly was real. Unless that Ranamon was fake.
Nah, because she got the spirits. They're in her Digivice.
I don't know. I just like Ranamon to come back and say, "Surprise! It was not me all along. It was Sephirothmon."
You didn't actually win.
Oh, I'd be so mad.
You did tell me when we began Frontier that she never gets a win.
No, I said at the start. Look, Jay, it took her 26 episodes to get
A clean win.
the scanning.
Yeah.
Even then, she didn't even defeat any small, Digimon that other people defeated. She didn't get her first evolution episode, she didn't get her second evolution episode, she didn't get any Digicode. It's annoying. What do you think of this episode as someone who is new to Digimon?
God, it was boring.
I liked this episode.
It just didn't make any sense, because they went back on her story, so it wasn't compelling in any way there, and Ranamon's a huge moron, and the bees are all morons, and it's just watching all these bad guys stumble over each other, and then finally Izumi puts them out of their misery. Great. Oh, wasn't it awesome just watching the inevitable happen?
It's really annoying, I like this episode, but the most annoying part is the fact that they changed her backstory so much. They actually flipped it from the Tsunomon episode. And it was something I noticed straight away as soon as she started to say, "You know what, I didn't like being alone." Dude, you lied to us. There's no reason that they would have... unless I completely, misinterpreted that episode, there's no reason that they would have changed that other than they forgot or they just wrote it differently because it was easier for them to write, and it's upset me. And as for a rating, I gave it a 7, but I don't know, I feel like it's better than the Tommy episode.
I give it a 5.
I'm going to keep it as a 7, but it's just kind of Frontier Writers, you're bad.
Yeah, they're really awful.
You changed a bit of the backstory, and that's just so why would they do that?
Because they're bad and they're hacks.
Yeah, so you gave it a 5?
Yep.
Okay. And what do you think of this episode compared to your predictions in Obnoxious Synopsis?
She sure-footed Ranamon, and everyone was embarrassed. And by everyone, I mean me. I was embarrassed for all of them. And it was annoying, and it wasn't good. And it wasn't a 4. It was a 5. Somehow it was better than what I thought it might be. But it might be a 4, so whatever.
No.
And it wasn't filler, because Ranamon died.
Yeah, and that's fine. I disagree with you. I liked this episode. I found it was an interesting episode, but thinking about it, that's a pretty big issue with the whole changing the backstory thing. What was the major difference between the Japanese and the English version?
Since I moved from Italy and since I came back from Italy.
Yeah.
It's so minor, but in one of them she went on a vacation and now everyone hates her, rather than I'm a foreigner and they don't like me.
Well, the main difference that really stood out to me, there weren't that many, but it's the one at the start where Mercurymon seems to want Ranamon to die.
I thought that was always implied, and they were just making it obvious in English.
I don't feel like... I feel like he was watching it as a spectacle, but I don't feel like he wanted her to die because they're still reaching the same goal. Unless Mercurymon's, fighting for himself, I guess. But that's just... I don't know, it's a pretty big difference.
No, we know that Mercurymon's for himself. We already knew that. That's because he's all, conspiratorial on the side.
Oh, yeah, with the whole Seraphimon's data thing.
Yeah.
We're halfway through Frontier. What do you think so far?
Oh, it's awful. It's really bad. And I've always said this with compared to 02, which is the worst. 02 is only the worst because of how much it ruins adventure.
Yeah.
But I think as a standalone product, it's better than this.
Yeah.
This is just boring all the time. The storylines are mediocre, right? There's nothing devastatingly bad. But they're so boring.
And I feel like the writing, constantly forgets itself or rewrites itself. And, it's a problem when we say, hey, this character that's really well written? Yeah, it's the character's brother who essentially goes unnamed in the original version, I think. And he shows up for one episode. That's the best written character in Frontier, apparently. What are you doing? You can't give the best writing to a character who doesn't reappear. What?
You can, obviously. But that's the thing. This series is bad. And
Yeah.
I don't... we were told it gets better, but honestly, I feel like it's somehow managed to lose more momentum going into what is clearly, whether or not you consider it filler or not, I think each episode itself is not filler, but I think this is a filler arc, pretty much. I mean, Ranamon died, so it can't fully qualify, but you have to think. It's a big waste of time.
Well, I have a bit stats. I'm not going to go too far deep into this, but did you know that out of the 26 episodes we've covered so far, only 5 have been filler, and that's including the Bergamon episode, which is probably the best episode.
Yeah, but that tells you that, like, what defines not filler is really minor. Like, it'll be, the tiniest thing happened in this episode. Like, something advanced, so it's technically not filler. But you know what? They're not filler episodes, they are half filler every time. I'd say every episode has 10 minutes of story in it and 10 minutes of wasting your time.
Oh, yes, 100%. Like, it could be compressed. Like, arguably a lot of these episodes could be compressed into several episodes, and they would be better episodes. For my last discussion point, did you notice that how all of the evil spirits have their own character arc besides Ranamon and maybe Arbamon? Like, they all sort of have, like, Grottomon had, like, a pretty long, like, this is the introduction to the evil spirits arc. And, of course, we have Sephirothmon's arc. We have possibly Arbamon's mini arc of being hungry all the time and then Duskmon killing him. And Duskmon obviously has his own thing going on.
What do you mean? Ranamon's the same. She got a bunch of episodes.
No, but she didn't have, like, a story arc. She was just kind of there.
None of them did.
Grottomon did.
No, he didn't. He was always angry, and then he lost eventually.
I feel like he had more of a story arc.
Well, okay, where did he begin and where did he end?
When he first showed up, and they were like, "Oh my god, an evil spirit," with the Shell Numamon.
Okay, so what is that about him that makes it his story arc?
It was him fighting and stealing the other children's spirits. Did you notice?
So he doesn't have a story arc. He's in a story arc.
Did you notice that none of the main character, like the man baddie of a mini arc? And what I'm saying is, he was the only one to steal one of the child's spirits. We haven't seen that mechanic come back.
True. But, like, I don't know, Woodmon was like around occasionally. Ranamon's been around occasionally. Sephirothmon is just there now. Like,
I know, but I feel like they're the big baddie of, a little mini story arc.
I mean, Ranamon had 2 episodes in a row, which is basically what Pedaljamon got.
I know, that's why I said maybe Arbamon in my discussion question. I feel that they got the least love out of all of them, even though Arbamon is the best, and I love him.
Well, look, I don't even think they should have gotten this much time as a group. Here's the thing. In Adventure, Edamon just died, I think, right?
26. No, they were doing the Crest arc, I believe. I think Sora's Crest of Love was episode 26 or thereabouts.
So when did Edamon die?
Edamon died in... Home Away from Home was episode 21, so Edamon died in episode 20.
Oh, so Edamon's already dead, in fact.
Yes.
So they were already 2 big bad guys in Adventure, for example.
Yeah, they were on the
Ken was a friend
Crest.
by now.
Yeah.
Right? In Frontier, they were already in the digital world.
You mean Tamers?
So in Tamers, they're already in the digital world. They'd been fighting the Davis for a while, and they'd covered a bunch of other stuff, and they'd basically beaten, Hypnos.
Atmon episode 26 was a recap episode.
No, but by then they'd gone to the deep web, and they'd sort of conquered that stuff. And big things had happened. In Frontier, they're still fighting the same mooks they've been fighting the entire series, having made no progress, and the only time you've ever even seen the big bad guy, you saw him as a hologram once. And you know he's not gonna be the real bad guy. Lucimon's the real bad guy.
Yeah, I'm in 02, episode 26, was the Paledramon episode, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, Paledramon just showed up, and in Adventure, it was Sora's Crest of Love. They are fighting Myodasmon in that episode.
And so this is just the slowest, most boring series of Digimon, and it's amazing. It is not... I don't hate it as much as 02, because I think I'm just really neutral towards this.
Yeah.
I feel like this is wasting my time, and that's all it is. I can't... If the writing is bad, it is because it's really boring.
And yeah, episode 26 of Tamers, now that we're into this, is Kazu and Kenta's Excellent Adventure. They're in the digital world. In Frontier, we're still saying, man, that Cherubimon guy, what a baddie.
No, not only what a baddie, we've never seen him, though. They've never had any interaction with him at all.
Our main, seeing of him is from the intro, the opening credits. And
I feel like this would be like in, I don't know, if you're watching Star Wars and instead of fighting Darth Vader and the Emperor and stuff, you got halfway through the second movie of the original trilogy, and you were still just fighting stormtroopers over and over again, and still had made no progress.
And yeah, I actually agree with you here. Like, the pacing is weird. Like, remember at the start of the show when we'd already got to perfect, like, episode 10, and I was saying, man, this seems very fast. And now, looking at it from episode 26, we're saying, this seems very slow considering what they've accomplished. So it's got weird pacing issues of, at the start, it's like, oh, ultra fast, we all have revolutions. And now it's slower, but I guess they're only now getting the character development. What's a good idea is that we have the character development early on, and then we have, like, the evolutions later, so it feels like we've accomplished something. It's weird.
Now, and the thing is, I've always complained about how Digimon has way too many episodes per series.
Yeah.
50 episodes is just too much. Like, it's unnecessary. But I understand if you're going to tell 3 or 4 stories in that time, fine, you might need that period of time.
Yeah.
So you're using 15 to 20 episodes per thing. Okay, fine. We're 26 episodes in, and they haven't even really begun to tell these kids' story. Because the story's not fighting these mooks. This team of, I don't know, they've literally never given them a real name, right?
They're just the evil spirits, I think.
The evil spirit, they've never called them that. So whatever, they're the mooks, right?
Yeah.
That's the story thus far, but they're not the bad guys. They're not the ones oppressing the world. They're the ones in the way of getting to the real bad guy, whose motivation is unclear. Because you know what? If his motivation is to rule the digital world, he doesn't. He doesn't rule. People are a bit scared of him.
They've kind of, like, separated the digital world, but we haven't... Like, the first few episodes, we saw all this danger and all this, like, you know, havoc that the spirits had caused by eating part of the world. When was the last time we saw any of the world being eaten by Digimon? I feel like it was
the mountain?
Grottomon. Yeah, it was Grottomon eating, like, Waymon telling us that Grottomon ate up the lake.
Oh, that's it.
The ocean. And that's the last time. And that was meant to be the big, you know, that's the havoc that's being caused. You know, they're eating up the digital world. The digital world is in fragments. We don't see that anymore. And I actually think that Digimon Adventure had good pacing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it told so many stories, and it told in a way that if you split it up into different, like, each arc was a different, like, standalone series, like, season of the one series, that's fine. That's a fine amount of episodes to have 54 episodes. And I feel like they told a good story. Sure, there was filler. Sure, the first arc was a little bit slow until they got to Devimon, but it got better. Like, it got to the end, and you actually cared about the characters.
Yep.
Even you cared about the characters. I remember you saying, I care about these characters.
Maybe.
I'll miss them.
You leave me alone. And yeah, we're just stuck in this weird, unnecessary boss rush, which altogether feels like, guys, we have 50 episodes to fill. We have one story to tell, but it lasts 4 episodes. So we have to save it for the end.
Do you think Truimon's the only big bad?
I just told you.
Okay.
20 seconds ago.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were saying, but I wasn't quite sure. So, I guess we'll just move on to Screenshot of the Week. Mine was Sailor Mon, because there weren't actually that many good screenshots this episode.
What's Sailor Mon?
These episodes. It was after Fairymon does the scan, she does this little Sailor Moon kit, and I was like, hey, it reminds me of Sailor Moon. That's legitimately all. There were not many screenshots that I found interesting in these episodes.
I've got the same problem. I've picked the one where, like, Chuckmon is standing there and, like, there's the fire all around him and he looks like he's very serious because it just looks really odd and striking compared to the rest of the episodes, which is just boring because they're just in wastelands and it's shot on... the camera rests on the character, the person they're talking to, then on the character, the person they're talking to. It's shot like, the Star Wars original trilogy, actually, which is nothing interesting is happening.
I really liked I liked the screenshot you're talking about. I feel like that Ring of Fire bit was interesting and it looked good, and Chakamon looks so serious, so I like it. For Digimon designs that were introduced in this episode, there were 3. First of all, Asuramon.
Asuramon's kind of cool. He looks a lot like... I mean, I assume that Asura is like a thing in Japanese mythology that I don't know anything about. Because I have this game called Asura's Wrath, which is awesome. And the main character looks a bit like this guy, except with only one head.
Well, it's based off something, obviously. What about Karatenmon?
I don't have any like impressions of it.
I like him.
It's a bird.
I think it's cool. He's like a ninja bird. I like him.
It's Karatemon.
What about Honeybeemon?
That sure is a bee.
It sure is the crest of knowledge.
I didn't even see it.
It's another Armor Evolution.
Yeah, isn't Paramon as well?
No. Paramon, like, is before Armor Evolution.
Oh, no, but I'm sure that they could have said, that is actually the Armor Evolution, blah, blah, blah.
No, it's not. So, on to Postmon Pat. For weekly poll, I'm sorry, but last week I didn't actually specify what the weekly poll was. I did set it up the next day, but I didn't actually say in the episode. So this was, did a Goonimon summon the weather or did he predict the weather? And I'll get up the results while Jay reads out the response.
Chuck1 says that it's a trick question. It's both. As Agunimon was looking for the others, I think he suddenly realized how attuned he was to the natural elements, but one can only conclude by his battle with Mercuriumon and Randomon that he can now summon these elements. The hail and tornadoes would have been way too convenient otherwise. I don't think even the Frontier Riders would stretch plot necessity quite that far. More important, has it ever rained or snowed in the digital world until now? I believe it has. There's definitely been snow in 02. I remember that because there's a big snow area. And rain, I'm sure it has. I don't think in Tamers not Tamers. In Frontier it has though, because they're usually in like a desert, and that one's it's really clear about that. Mm-hmm. But also, I think that he sensed it as it was coming down. Like, oh, I sense it's about to start raining, and then he commanded it to stop, which is how he knew he could control the elements.
I think he's predicting as well.
You just said no. You don't think he's predicting as well. No one thinks he's predicting.
I thought you just said he was predicting it.
No, he sensed it right at the beginning, then he controlled it the rest of the way.
Oh, I just think he's sensing it and predicting it.
So the hail and the tornado, you think, oh, it just showed up. That's
yes,
cool.
I think it's stupid plot convenience.
Oh, I just don't think it's that much. We got one from SP who says that I think he senses the weather, kind similar how animals smell the rain from afar or sense an earthquake. I think the sentiment was that a Goonimon really managed to awaken his instincts as a Digimon. But even if that's the case, a dog isn't going to start attacking you as a hailstorm and a tornado and lightning come down. Those weather conditions I don't even think could exist together. Unless you summoned them, then that makes sense.
So, for the weekly poll, we got 27 votes, and predicts the weather won with 16 votes. Summons the weather only got 11.
Really?
I agree with predicts the weather. I think it's stupid plot convenience, because the Frontier writing stuff aren't that stellar, but it's not summoning the weather, because that makes no sense.
But with what you're shown on screen, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, because he's just standing there, and he's like, the rain will start, the rain will stop. It's not him summoning, it's him saying what he thinks will happen because he's awakened to the digital world. And yeah, that's just what I see. Can you read Gmail and I'll read Tumblr?
So on Gmail we got one from Kylo who says that maybe the evil spirits not fighting together is because they suck at teamwork. The good guys don't do well as a team, so maybe it's the same. Arbamon seems pretty chummy with all the other evil warriors. I mean, except Duskmon obviously, but only Randomon and Mercuriumon seem close. And even then, not really close. Mercuriumon does get her killed. Uzumi's conflict was interesting with how she doesn't know how to deal with people and is happy being alone and gets hurt whenever somebody gets close and betrays her. That person didn't get close and betrayed her. Izumi got close to her and then it just didn't go well. And you could say that this happened first, now she likes being alone, but that's not what she expressed, you know? The only important battles with Izumi have been with Randomon and about womanhood and how a woman should and should not act. Yeah, it doesn't seem great. Randomon is shown to be the weakest spirit, like how Izumi is the weakest in the hero group. Is Chuckmon not weaker than Fairymon? She seems to do worse.
I feel like if he is weaker, it is because Tommy is a child and she's a woman, and I guess children are even weaker than women. Like, oh wow.
That's technically true. But I don't know, if you want to establish that Izumi is the weakest of the group, I don't think that's necessarily true. It might not be a huge step up over Tommy, but it's still a step. Randomon should be stronger than Grottomon, but her impact and her battles tell another story. She was just the mean girl fighting the nice girl. Randomon was just manipulated by Mercuriumon. Yeah, Randomon was also the only spirit to be beaten and scanned completely in one loss. That's not true, she lost a bunch of times.
No, she didn't, lose. In the beach episode, she just kind of flew away, but it wasn't really a loss. She didn't get defeated. This is the first time, we had a fight and she lost. Other times she just kind of spun off conveniently.
I also think that might mean getting both parts of them scanned.
Yeah.
Because I think they took Grottomon's beast spirit before they took his human one.
Yeah, and same with Arbamon. They took Pedaldramon and then he was just left as Arbamon, and that's why Duskmon killed him.
Also, Izumi beating Randomon doesn't make Izumi look strong. It makes Randomon look weak. This person gets wrestling booking.
Yeah.
And what if Izumi had just taken Randomon, leaving Randomon with her ugly human spirit? Human spirit isn't the ugly one. The beast one's the ugly one.
Naramon leaving Randomon with her ugly human spirit. And I would have really liked that, because we've seen, they grab one spirit and it's the beast spirit, and then they leave them weak as a human spirit. But what if we left Ranamon, who was so preoccupied with her looks, with her beast spirit who is ugly? I would really like that, so...
Well, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
You've got a huge problem of that just makes her stronger, and...
Yeah, and that's good. Make her stronger. Make
Why
her look strong.
No, why would Izumi ever do that? You have to think,
It's an
Izumi
accident.
has to make a decision.
Make it an accident. All the other times we're like, I can only grab this one spirit at a time, so I will grab Chakumon's spirit and the beast spirit. It just...
So what you want...
I feel like it's random.
What you want is for us to look at this and say Izumi is the stupidest character in the show.
I feel like it should be like a chance thing, like...
But it's not. It's never been shown to be that.
Maybe you can only grab the one first of the form that they're in, and maybe because she's in the Ranamon form or something, she takes the Ranamon one. I don't know, make it make sense. But
So you're saying rewrite the system to make this decision not stupid, and then make this decision.
I just feel like it would be better, like, just give Calmaramon actual, like, a character and give her more than this.
You know what?
I like Ranamon.
No. Kill them all as quickly as possible. Don't beat around the bush. Just kill all the evil spirits so we can move on with the story, okay? Sick of them already. Ryuichi says, regarding Takuya predicting the weather, the sub said it's going to rain, which seems like a prediction. It's very cliched and annoying, but it has nothing to do with Digimon. You know what? It says it's going to rain, and I said, I think he senses it at first, and then he controls it after that. And I don't find the wording exactly, but, like, come on.
I think it's
too
the
much.
sensing and predicting. I don't think it's summoning. I think it's terrible plot convenience.
They identify with JP's story. They say it's late development, but it is nice. And it was good. Then the defending me watching at 2 times speed. It's fine if he's busy and doesn't have time for something he doesn't like. And that's the important part. Don't tell me about business. It's mostly that I don't
You're
like
also
it.
talking at 2 times speed right now. Let's be fair. The people who are listening to this podcast at 2 times speed right now are probably very upset with you because they can't understand a word you are saying.
That's okay, honestly. I'm very tired and it's almost 12. And they suggest a milestone of us covering something that Jade likes.
We will actually consider that because we should be thinking about our next milestones soon anyway. So I'll add maybe to maybe the $400 milestone if we ever get there. Like every maybe month or so, we cover something that Jay likes and we watch it and we talk about it or something.
You never finished watching Gurren Lagann, did you?
Dude, I haven't watched it.
I've never seen it in Japanese. I want to see that in Japanese and English. We can do that.
Well, if we get to the milestone, we'll cover Gurren Lagann, I guess.
Woohoo!
And anything that you like, I guess.
Oh, that'll be really enjoyable.
I will have to add that. Also, I was thinking of also adding another milestone because it's been requested pretty heavily of us possibly paying someone to transcribe the episodes. Like, it'll be an expensive thing, but we've had a lot of people say, hey, I'm hearing impaired, do you have transcripts of the episodes? And I understand that we don't have enough time to transcribe 150 episodes, but there are people on the internet who transcribe things as, like, you know, their job, so maybe.
That milestone would be unreachably high, I think. Because we don't make a reasonable wage off the time we put in. If somebody else were to do it, that would eat every dollar out of Patreon immediately.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, it's something we have to think about and investigate, obviously. But it seems to be something that's pretty, like, highly requested. Like, I've had a few people saying, hey, so do you have transcripts? And would you ever consider doing transcripts? And yeah, I would love to, but I don't have that much time. I have a full-time job, and then I have the podcast, and then, you know, I have to prepare the podcast, and I would like some time to myself to just do things that I want to do for just fun. And yeah, so we'd have to pay someone or investigate an option. Maybe there are software that you can buy.
Yeah.
That do it. Free software's terrible at it.
That's the only option I think is even possible.
So we would have to investigate quality bits of software, and I'm pretty sure that's probably a more reasonable one that's not going to, you know, eat up all the money rather than hiring someone.
Think about it. What's the cheapest you could imagine someone taking for transcribing job, right?
Oh, it'd be per hour.
Lower than minimum wage, let's say $10 an hour. Okay? At $10 an hour, if a show is 2 hours, usually you don't type at the same pace as you're hearing. So it would probably take you 1.5 times the long as the show to transcribe the whole thing, let's say. That means it's $30 an episode. We're doing episode 98 right now.
And there are 150 episodes of the show
But
overall.
let's say 2 weeks from now, when we're doing, and we only get mainline episodes done, we hit episode 100, that will cost at least $3,000 to just get those transcribed at a low rate, at a reasonable speed.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's
So
not reasonable. We don't have that money.
okay, so it'd probably be more reasonable to look into a bit of software that does it. I mean, yeah, I'm not, like, because when some people say, hey, do you have transcript? I was like, hey, what about free transcribing things? And I read things about, free podcast transcribers, and they all said, all the free ones are terrible, hire someone or get this expensive software. And I think we might have to investigate the software. So we'll investigate that and put that maybe as a possible milestone.
Our only problem with that is we have a lot of made-up words in this because they're all Digimon, and so it's not going to catch those.
Well, we'd have to have that as a disclaimer of there are words that may not make it through because they're not real words, or Japanese words might not translate super duper well. But I feel like it is a good thing because I want to make the podcast accessible, and if there are people who are hearing impaired who are fans of Digimon who would love to, read what we have to say, and it's, I don't know.
Look, I'm willing to try, but a transcriber is totally unrealistic.
It is something, while we're on the topic of milestones, I just thought I'd bring that up, that I would like to look into that as a possible future milestone. But yeah, you're right. Like, hiring someone is like pretty much out of the question, so we would, to pay them fairly at least. So it would probably be better to buy a piece of software that would continue to do these episodes for us, and then we don't have to have someone, but then the transcribing wouldn't be as efficient, but it would be more possible. I don't know.
Because just on that low estimate, hiring someone to transcribe the episodes we've done would cost more money than we've ever made off the show.
Yeah, that too. But so a bit of software would be more reasonable. But yeah, so focusing on Gurren Lagann maybe for a future milestone. I would like to add that. I think I will.
Sweet. With the will, we got one from Jay Ukyo who says, Jay, actually pretty much all of the Digimon manga are better than nearly all of the anime except for maybe Tamers and Amon. And Try.
Amon has a manga.
May, don't start with Come On Digimon, start with V Tamer.
So we actually did read Come On Digimon very early in the show, and I believe it was...
We were special about that, don't we?
Yeah, no, it was I Will Show You Digiworld in one of the earlier episodes.
Oh.
And we covered it, and it was when we're still on adventure.
Wasn't it the one with the death games?
Yeah.
If you refuse a death game, you lose. Why?
So we might cover that again, but I was intending on starting with V-Tamer anyway, as it just strikes me as the first Digimon manga, even though I know Come On Digimon is the very, very first Digimon thing. In fact, the Digimon designs aren't finalised yet because they've only seen the sprites.
Well, I'm not reading it again.
Yeah.
Chuckmon says, in episode 23, it was interesting that roles flipped between Takuya and Kouji. Takuya, with his sharpened ability to sync with his surroundings, recognized the importance of needing a solid plan to get everyone away from Ranamon. And Mukuryamon, Kouji, became reckless by jumping in with absolutely no plan and against odds to save Junpei from Ranamon's torture because he cares about his friends. You say he cares about his friends, I think because he had no options, basically. Like, there was no other choice at that stage. I don't think there was a clever plan he could have come up with because he doesn't control the weather. I found it odd that while Takuya's heightened sense of perception is a byproduct of his now-knowing connection with the legendary spirit Agunimon, being part of something much bigger as Agunimon and not just Takuya, being a Digimon, quote-unquote, got localized in the dub as Takuya merely having a strong connection with the natural world. It's kind of a big change, especially since the connection with the legendary spirits is sort of a critical element to the story. It's also worth mentioning that Andrew from the Podigious podcast made the point that Frontier not having a solid Digimon leveling system in its world design really hurts the story with its inability to clearly show us strength differentials and establish significance with various victories and defeats. Mukuryamon and Ranamon got pretty easily overpowered in this episode. Mukuryamon doesn't get overpowered at all. He's not even in it.
Well, I mean, he wasn't really shown in this episode, I guess.
Yeah, but Ranamon got pretty easily overpowered. But
no, I think it's in the last episode, maybe not this one.
Mukuryamon's not in the last episode either.
Before he became Sephirothmon, then maybe, I don't know.
He never gets beaten. He easily kills...
Oh, in the Predicting Weather episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this episode, right, that would have been...
Yeah.
They said it last week.
I just jerked for a second.
But Frontier really doesn't offer a scale to properly evaluate what happened here. As Frontier's #1 fanboy, I must admit this one is one hell of a weakness. Now, as far as the differentials, 02 had the same problem. Armor Evolution was stupid, and so was jog resting. It was similarly made no sense. But yeah, we just sort of assume the Beast is one level higher than human, but then they've got a human spirit beating up an ultimate Digimon or whatever with Cherrymon. It's just it's nonsense because they don't care.
See, I always assumed that there was the level system. It's in 02 that they don't really have the level system of Armor Evolution. Like, what level is that? I don't know, I guess it's between child and adult. But what about the Beast? Like, not Beast, the second Armor Evolutions. They appear to be stronger. I don't know. That's confusing. But when I was watching Frontier, I always just assumed that they had that leveling system, so I never really thought that as a weakness. But it doesn't make that much sense when Beetlemon is able to defeat a perfect Digimon that we've seen before. You know, we've had Digimons of stronger levels struggle against Cherrymon before, and why is Beetlemon and a supposedly adult level Digimon able to defeat him so easily? I don't know. So on Tumblr, we have an Anonymon who says, in the dub, the children seem a lot more spiteful, as a quote from me. And then they say, isn't that basically the biggest difference in dubs of all scenes in a nutshell? And yes, basically, I often use that as a go-to, hey, what do I don't have a main difference, what do I go to? That's like my fallback main difference if I didn't notice anything. And it's, surprise, surprise, it happened in the Izumi episode this week. The difference was, I didn't say it as the main difference, but yeah, the girls were meaner to her.
But it didn't happen in Tommy's one.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. In the Tommy episode, he was still, like, fairly reasonable, like his brother. On Slack, Hiro Olato says that Agunimon was powered up by the wind because if you fan a flame, it will burn brighter.
And if you rain on it, it'll burn even brighter than that.
100%. And he says, it's science. So I feel really dumb because I was like, well, how does this happen? But no, yeah, if you fan a flame, that happens.
Did you not know that?
I knew it, but I forgot to mention in the episode, and I kind of made it sound like I was just saying, what strengthens fire? Well, I don't know.
Anyway, on Reddit, Dak and Jackson says that second time watching Frontier, they enjoyed the first half much better than last time. I guess they must have hated it last time. I don't know what impression that really means. And Frontier runs heavily on dream logic, more so than any other season of Digimon, and while it's used to great effect to create the digital world, it doesn't pace itself well enough with any character revelations. Some of these episodes should have come earlier in the series. The idea with dream logic is weird, right? Because if the digital world, right, it's digital, there is an inherent logic to it. There should be. The idea of the digital world, like, that was the thing that Adventure did, I think, reasonably well, was it said, everything here is so weird, and then there's a giant battery, and oh, well, the code for the battery is inside. This is how it works. Oh, this place is upside down, that's so strange. But there's a system in place, because it's all part of a computer. Everything has a purpose. And I just feel like in Frontier, they've gone, yeah, this place is really weird, huh? And it's been inconsistent to disorient the kids and to disorient the viewers without having any sort of justifying system in place. Mm-hmm. It's just there to be weird. Like, if you looked at Tamers' digital world, you can see, oh, look, there's these rocks that look like satellite dishes, or there's a place that's made of cogs and gears. And you can see a function or a shadow of function in this place. Frontier's just a weird place. There's nothing to it. And I know people say the digital world here is amazing, but if you have to think of it not as a different dimension, but as the digital world. What makes this place digital? Oh, it's got trains in it, I guess. Locomotives, the thing that the internet is all about.
Yeah, those trains, right?
Also, regarding not attacking during evolution sequences, I've always seen it as an abstract representation of what's actually happening, rather than literally being a minute-long sequence where the enemies just politely wait. Though there is a funny meme explaining this problem.
So I will link this in the link dump, but I'll show Jay now.
My issue is always when you look at, I think it's like one of the 02 movies, and they start evolving, and they literally turn white, and they spin around on the spot, and it doesn't take a minute, but it takes like 10, it takes 5 to 10 seconds.
That's in the, at the end of 02, where they're all like, oh, we have the Digicores from Qinglongmon now, and Poromon just spins in a circle and becomes Hawkmon. So here is the meme that Dak and Jackson referenced, which I will link in the link dump.
So, fellow villains, advise me on how to beat those chosen children. Kill one of them and fail. Turn them into keychains and fail. Attack while they digivolve. That's great. That's great.
But thanks to your Boromon for actually, trying to do something, right?
I'm glad to know Alphamon's a bad guy.
Is he?
Well, he's
in that he is, yeah.
What? Okay.
We don't actually know if he's a bad guy and try it.
He'll be a bad guy whenever else he shows up in, because clearly he was in like Cross Wars or something.
He was good in X Evolution. He was the main character in X Evolution.
No, he wasn't. Wasn't Purple Little Dinosaur the main character?
Guess who he evolved into? Did you pay attention to that? Apparently you didn't pay attention to that movie at all.
No, I didn't.
So, yeah. Doraemon at the
I
end,
knew that Mummymon was in it.
Doraemon becomes Alphamon and he's all like, oh, I was a royal knight the entire time, apparently. I'm exempt from the X antibody, I don't know.
It's so bad.
We have to watch that soon.
so
We have to
bad.
watch that soon. We have to finish Frontier, then we watch that. And then we move on to Savers, so it's fine.
Oh, man. Alright, everybody, just for the next episode of Error Manga Sensei, stuck in Sakakimon with Yo.
Or, and I'm going to say this episode title in Japanese because it is a bit of a spoiler, Kiseki no Double Spirito Berufumon Tanjo!
And Dankness Before the Down.
Wow. Or, Takuya no Yugo Shinka Arudamon Wazu Sakuretsu. I'm sorry if I missed
He evolved
said
into
that.
a Rudamon.
I don't know. What's a Rudamon? You're a Rudamon.
Oh, no.
For Weekly Wonders this week, I'm just going to say chocolate. I didn't do anything particularly special, so I'm just going to say eat some chocolate. I like chocolate. Eat it. Go. Do. If you can't eat chocolate, eat something that brings you the same happiness that chocolate
Also-
gives you.
Double Spirit. Barufumon. Double. That's just double.
Double spirito.
You mean double hacking?
Double hacking.
Triple
Triple
hacking.
hacking.
The show is so
Alright,
bad.
what's your Weekly Wonder?
Did I do anything? I didn't do anything.
You had Passover.
I played Counter-Strike. Go play Counter-Strike.
You ate some matzah. You're going to say matzah as your
No,
Weekly
I
Wonder?
won't. I won't do
I
that.
will. I will say matzah.
Fair enough.
I will say chocolate-covered matzah. Because I like chocolate. So eat something that makes you happy or play Counter-Strike, apparently.
It's fun, even though I'm bad at it, and you will probably be bad at it too.
The link dump's linked in the description. You can find the link to our screenshots of the week, which were kind of like this week, and our Weekly Wonders, which, go eat something nice, I guess. Also linked in the description and in our link dump. You can contact us and stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode or message us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, which is new, and YouTube. We have a discussion thread on With the Will and a Reddit thread in the Digimon subreddit. We'd really appreciate if you were to review us on iTunes and on Stitcher. We now have a website, and you can vote in our weekly poll where we say, hey, let's not treat these female characters as just females, and let's judge them which one's more attractive or which one is the fairest Digimon of them all. Also, by the way, I gave my mate my YouTube account, and he uploaded a video of Jay and I arguing, so if you want to watch that on our YouTube.
Important.
Did you read the description?
I didn't.
And we
was
also, we all know that Jay is wrong, but we have to make him feel happy about himself.
admitted I was right on the video.
Only to make you happy. Anyway, we do actually have a poll about whether Poliwrath is a frog, by the way. So you can also vote on that. And you can donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description, from as little as $1 a month. $1 a month gets you access to our listener Slack chat group, but higher level gets you exclusive notes, information, early and unedited episode recordings, the ability to suggest discussion topics, Skype calls with May and Jay, and more. If we reach our next milestone, we will start our monthly series covering the Digimon manga.
And thank you to our Patreon supporters. Sam Krieger, who has a podcast called The Moncast, which talks about Pokemon and Digimon. Stevie, who's also Stevie on YouTube, and you can find the link to their channel in the description. Wuchinglong, who you can find at twitch.tv/Wuchinglong. Metamamimon, Joe, Anime Guy, who is Anime Guy Kurosaki and the #1 on YouTube. Chuckmon, Ishbal Bamba, Hiro Lado, who is at Hiro Lado on Twitter. Jason Morosky, Ryuchi, who is Frost Miragic on Archive of Our Own. Stephen Reeves, who is at Wildling64 on Twitter. Kaidawashi, Mac, Noam, Riku, Red and Garen from Breakfast with Digimon, which is another Digimon podcast you can find on SoundCloud right now. Cheesai, you can follow at Cheesai236 on Tumblr. Corey, Kyle, the Lady Bugman, whose anime blog you can read at bagubaragu.wordpress.com. Smallwolfie, who's on Tapastic as Smallwolfie and has a comic called Eden of Melancholy. Tom, Glitchgoat, and Azriel McCool.
You can also make a one-off donation on PayPal, which you found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Edgemon. Make sure to let us know for the podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.